The first person to tell me about my daughter's wedding was Marianne Bell, who wanted to know if the discounted hotel block was worth the extra $30. "I can stay with you," she said, "unless you've got Grant's relatives sleeping on every flat surface." I stood at my kitchen counter with a paring knife in one hand and half a lemon in the other. "What hotel block?" There was a pause, followed by the papery rustle of something being unfolded. The Mason house. For the wedding. I looked toward the calendar beside my refrigerator. Claire's wedding was supposed to take place at the county courthouse on a Thursday morning with 2 witnesses and no parents. "Marianne," I said, "read me what you're holding." She read the date first, Saturday, October 18th, then the time, 4 in the afternoon. Ceremony in the Magnolia Ballroom, cocktails in the courtyard, dinner and dancing to follow. Formal attire requested. "Ruth, I'm here. You know about this, right?" My knife was still pressed into the lemon. Juice ran across the cutting board and reached the stack of mail. At the bottom of the invitation, beneath Claire and Grant's names, was a sentence about gathering the people who had helped shape Claire's life. Marianne's voice softened. "Are you not coming?" 3 weeks earlier, Grant had been at that same kitchen counter arguing that $62 was a perfectly reasonable amount to pay for one dinner plate. "You're not buying the plate," he'd said. "You're buying an experience." "I've had experiences with plates," I told him. Mostly they held food. Claire laughed before she could stop herself. Grant didn't. The 3 of us were eating chicken piccata at my house because Claire had announced, by text, that they wanted to talk wedding realities. That phrase had been Grant's. Claire didn't use the word realities unless someone else had handed it to her first. I had set the dining room table anyway, with Alan's old wine glasses and the linen napkins I ironed twice a year whether they needed it or not. Grant had carried his plate into the kitchen halfway through dinner so he could show me photographs on his phone. Every picture had candles, flowers, and table settings so crowded there was barely room for an elbow. "Look at the atmosphere," he said. "I'm looking for the salt. It's an investment in the memory. Memories used to be free." Claire gave me a warning look over the rim of her glass. She had been doing that since she was 17, though at 36 she had refined it. Less eyebrow, more silence. Grant set down his phone. He was a handsome man in a way that required upkeep. His beard ended exactly where he wanted it to. His shirts never wrinkled at the elbows. But he also noticed when my porch light burned out, and once, during a rainstorm, he had driven 20 minutes to move a branch that fell across my driveway. He wasn't careless. That would have been easier. "We're not asking you to cover everything," he said. "I didn't think you were." Claire touched the stem of her glass. "We're trying to figure out what's possible." I knew what that meant. I took a sip of water and waited. Grant sat down again. "My parents are willing to contribute 15. 1,500? 1,000. I put my glass down carefully. Claire's face changed. Not much. A little tightening beside her mouth. I had already offered to pay for her dress and the cake. I'd imagined we might shop together, though Claire had not asked. I had imagined lemon layers with raspberry filling, because she used to request that combination for every birthday. I had imagined a lot of things without realizing I was rehearsing for a part no one had offered me. "I can't match that," I said. Grant spread his hands. No one said match. "How much are you short?" Claire said. "Mom, it's a number, honey, not a blood oath." Grant answered. 25 would let us reserve the Mason house and handle the major vendors. It took me a second to understand he meant $25,000. That's short? It would put us where we need to be. I looked at Claire. "And where is that?" She pushed a piece of chicken through the sauce. "At the wedding we want." There are questions mothers learn not to ask because the answers will be used against them. I asked one anyway. "Is this what you want, or is it what you think a wedding is supposed to look like?" Grant leaned back. Claire went still. "That," she said, "is exactly why I didn't want to do this here." "Do what? Talk numbers? Be examined." I asked a question. You always ask a question that already has an answer inside it. Grant reached for her hand. It was a small gesture, and I hated how grateful she looked when he made it. I softened my voice. Claire, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a beautiful wedding. You're saying we're foolish. I'm saying I can pay for the dress and the cake. I can help with other things as they come up. But I'm not taking $25,000 out of my savings. I told you she wouldn't, Claire said to Grant. She didn't sound angry. She sounded embarrassed, which hurt more. Grant surprised me by nodding. And that's completely fair. Ruth, it's your money. The decent answer delivered with perfect calm. For half a second, I felt ashamed of myself. Then he added, we just thought Alan would have wanted to do something substantial for his only daughter. The room seemed to contract around his name. Claire closed her eyes. Grant. What? I'm not pressuring her. I'm saying why we asked. Alan had been dead 4 years, 3 months, and 11 days. I knew because grief makes an accountant out of you. I also knew exactly how much of our retirement savings had come from his habit of fixing things instead of replacing them, bringing lunch from home and turning down every salesman who used the phrase, once in a lifetime. Don't spend Alan for me, I said. Grant's cheeks colored. Claire pushed back her chair. Oh, for God's sake, I'm not trying to start a fight. No, you never are. You just drop one sentence in the middle of the table and then sit there looking wounded while everyone else bleeds around it. That was good. Too good to have been invented in the moment. I wondered how many times she had said it to Grant before she said it to me. He touched her arm. Let's go. Dinner ended with Claire wrapping 2 pieces of chicken in foil because anger had never interfered with her appetite. At the front door, I told her I was sorry for my tone. My tone, I said, not my answer. I know, she replied. She kissed my cheek without looking at me. For 2 weeks, we spoke only in short texts. I sent her the name of the woman who had altered my anniversary dress. She replied with a heart. She sent me a picture of a lamp and asked whether I thought it was too large for the new apartment. I said yes. She bought it anyway. Then she arrived at my house on a Tuesday afternoon with 2 coffees, and the expression she wore when bringing me news she had already decided I would mishandle. I have something to tell you, she said. If you bought another lamp, I don't want to know. She smiled despite herself. That gave me hope, which was my first mistake. She sat at the kitchen table, peeled the cardboard sleeve off her cup, and tore it into smaller and smaller pieces. We changed the wedding plans. My mind went directly to disaster. Are you two all right? Yes, we're fine. Better than fine, actually. We realized the big event was getting away from us. I waited. We're doing something small. How small? Courthouse small. The relief that moved through me was so immediate that I laughed. Well, good, if that's what you want. It is. Your father would have loved that. The words slipped out. Claire looked toward the window. I mean, he would have loved not paying $62 for a plate, I added. That got another smile, but only for a moment. It's going to be us, the officiant, 2 witnesses, and dinner afterward, she said. Nothing formal. Who are the witnesses? Friends of Grant's. I waited for the rest. Claire folded one of the cardboard pieces in half. No parents. Oh, his parents aren't coming either. That's why it felt like the only fair way. I picked up my coffee, though I didn't want it. Beverly is comfortable with that? She understands. And you don't want me there. Mom, don't say it like that. I looked at her. How would you like me to say it? It isn't about wanting. The whole point is to keep it stripped down to 6 people, 12 at dinner, but not 13. She stood and carried her coffee to the sink, then remembered it wasn't empty. Claire had always needed movement when she was lying or hurting. Sometimes both looked the same. I knew you'd do this. I haven't done anything. You're making me feel guilty. I'm sitting in my own kitchen. That doesn't mean you're not doing it. I almost told her that mothers were allowed to be sad when their daughters got married without them. Instead, I asked if she had a dress. The question disarmed her. Her shoulders came down. I found one online. It needs to be taken in a little. Bring it over. You don't have to. I know. She brought it that Sunday in a box that looked too small to contain anything important. The dress was simple, ivory crepe with narrow sleeves and a low back. Beautiful, in an unarguing sort of way. Claire stood on the braided rug in my sewing room while I pinned the side seams. The room had once been Alan's office. His pencil sharpener was still screwed to the edge of the workbench, though there hadn't been a pencil in it since before he died. "Don't breathe in," I told her. "I'm not, you are. Your ribs just vanished." She laughed, and for 10 minutes, we were ourselves again. When I finished pinning, Claire changed in the bathroom. I slid the dress over a padded hanger and covered it with an old white sheet. She came back carrying a stack of envelopes I had left on the hall cabinet. "Do you still have that green address book?" "In the drawer under the phone. Can I borrow it?" "What for?" "We're sending moving announcements after the wedding. I don't have current addresses for half the family." I opened the drawer and took it out. The cloth on the corners had faded almost gray, and the spine was held together with clear tape. Claire turned it over in her hands. "You still have Dad's handwriting in here." "Of course I do." On the inside cover, Alan had written our first address in block letters, then crossed it out when we bought the house. Farther in were names of people who had died, names of people who had divorced, names of people who had become closer to us than relatives. Claire flipped through the pages, smiling at some of the notes. "You wrote, 'Do not discuss politics,' next to Uncle Peter. That was for your father. I already knew." She tucked the book into her bag beneath her folded jeans. "Bring it back when you're done," I said. "I will." Now, with lemon juice soaking my mail and Marianne waiting on the telephone, I could see the empty space in the drawer from where I stood. "Ruth?" she said again. "Should I not have called?" "No, I'm glad you did. What's going on?" "I don't know yet." My voice sounded calm enough that I almost believed it. Marianne offered to bring the invitation over, but I asked her to send me a picture. A moment later, my phone buzzed against my ear. I put her on speaker and opened the message. The invitation was thick cream cardstock edged in gold. Claire's name swept across the top in dark green script. The reception alone lasted 5 hours. There was a cocktail menu, a hotel code, and a link to a registry with more categories than my kitchen had cabinets. Marianne said, "Ruth, there's another card." She sent the second picture. It was a note from Grant. He wrote that he and Claire hoped to fill the room with the people who had loved her longest. He thanked everyone for making the trip. Then, in the final line, he said, "Ruth will be so happy to celebrate with you." I read that sentence 3 times. My phone began vibrating with an incoming call. Claire. I answered, but before I could say her name, she spoke. "Mom," Marianne called me. "Please don't do anything until I explain." "Then explain." Claire exhaled. I heard a car door slam somewhere near her, followed by Grant saying something I couldn't make out. "The ceremony is still small," she said. "That part didn't change. There's a ballroom. That's the reception. The invitation calls it a ceremony and reception. The ceremony is in one section of the ballroom." I set down the knife. "Is it a very small section?" "Mom, how many people did you invite? We don't know how many are coming." "That wasn't my question." Grant's voice moved closer. "Tell her 120, give or take." Claire covered the phone. "Not well enough." "You're not helping. 120 people." I looked around my kitchen as if they might all be hiding behind the chairs. "You told me 12. At dinner. 12 at the dinner after the courthouse." "Then the plans changed again. And you didn't mention that?" "We just finalized everything. The invitations are already in people's houses, because Grant handled them. I've been dealing with the dress and the flowers and the catering changes. He took that off my plate." I laughed once. It didn't sound like anything pleasant. Apparently, he put $62 back on it. "This is why I wanted to wait until we could talk in person." "You called me." "Because Marianne called me upset and said you didn't know anything about the wedding. She wasn't upset when she called me. She was asking where to sleep." Claire went quiet. I enlarged the picture on my phone, pinching until Grant's final sentence filled the screen. Why did he write that I would be happy to celebrate with everyone? It was just a nice note. It was a false note. It wasn't meant that way. What way was it meant? Grant said something again. This time Claire answered him directly. If you want to talk, then talk. A scrape, a muffled complaint, and then his voice came through. Ruth, hey. I disliked the hey more than I should have. Grant, I think there's been a communication pileup. Is that what 108 extra guests are called? I'm not trying to minimize your reaction. I understand this looks strange from your side. How does it look from yours? Like the plan evolved. He sounded patient, as though we were discussing weather damage neither of us had caused. Claire was feeling disappointed. He continued, not about the marriage. About the idea of this important moment passing without the people who care about her. We realized small didn't have to mean empty. Did it have to mean without me? Silence came first, then the faint rush of traffic. Grant cleared his throat. That's a separate conversation. It's the same wedding. Of course it is. But the guest list and your relationship with Claire are two different things. They seem to have collided on heavy cardstock. Can we come by tomorrow? Where are you now? Outside the florist. Bring my address book. Another silence, shorter this time. Claire came back on the line. I'll bring it when I'm finished with it. What are you doing with it? I told you. No, you told me you were sending moving announcements. We are. Did you give it to Grant for the invitations? I let him use it. The words were quiet enough that I had to press the phone harder to my ear. You let him invite people from my book. They aren't strangers, Mom. They're family friends. They're relatives. A lot of them have known me my whole life. Mrs. Hanley did my taxes until she retired. She came to my graduation. So did the janitor. Did Grant find him? That's not fair. I don't know what fair is in this conversation. Grant's voice rose in the background. We're going to lose the flower appointment, Claire said. I have to go. Is my dress still your responsibility? I asked. I looked toward the hallway. It was visible from the kitchen, hanging behind the open sewing room door beneath the old white sheet. That's a terrible thing to say. I asked if you want me to finish it. Of course I do. Then come at 10 tomorrow, both of you. I ended the call before I could say anything that would let her dismiss everything else. For a while, I stood without moving. The lemon juice had soaked through the electric bill and blurred the blue ink where I had written the due date. I wiped the counter, washed the knife, and threw the lemon away. Then I opened the registry. I knew I shouldn't. Nothing useful has ever come from looking at someone else's requested bath towels while angry. Claire and Grant had registered for 12 place settings, 2 sets of wine glasses, a countertop mixer, luggage, a Dutch oven, an espresso machine, and something described as a smart herb garden. There was also a cash fund labeled, Our First Adventure. The little photograph beside it showed them standing in front of a borrowed lake house, Grant's arm around Claire and Claire laughing at someone outside the frame. I clicked through the guest information page. The hotel rate was $219 a night. Valet parking cost $40. The dress code was described as garden formal, though the wedding was indoors. Alan would have asked whether the garden was invited. I closed the page. My phone buzzed twice while I was pressing the hem of Claire's dress. The first message was from Marianne. I'm sorry. I assumed you knew. The second arrived before I could answer. I won't say anything to anyone. That was worse. It made me sound like a woman whose humiliation required a confidentiality agreement. I called her. You don't have to protect me, I said. I know, but I also don't have to broadcast your business. It appears to be printed and mailed already. She made a small, sympathetic noise. Don't do that, I said. Do what? That sound you make before telling someone their haircut will grow back. It was one time, and it did grow back. I sat at the sewing machine. Did Claire ever invite you directly? No. Grant called last month. Last month? He said they'd expanded things and wanted the people who mattered. I thought it was sweet. What exactly did he say about me? Marianne hesitated. Please. He said you were overwhelmed but excited. I assumed that meant you were helping. Did he ask for anything? Just my mailing address, but he already had it. He mentioned the hotel and asked if I thought your cousins would travel. The sewing machine's needle was poised above the ivory cloth. I had stopped with half the hem still open. Marianne, go if you want to go. I don't know what I want yet. That's all right, just don't decide for my sake. Have you spoken to Claire? Yes. And? She's coming tomorrow. Do you want me there? No. Good. I didn't want to come. That made me smile despite myself. Then why did you ask? To give you the pleasure of saying no. The next morning, Claire and Grant arrived at 10:20, carrying coffees but not the address book. I noticed immediately. Where is it? Grant glanced at Claire. At the apartment, she said. We came straight from the bakery. You said you'd bring it. I forgot. Grant held out one of the cups. Oat milk, 1 sugar. I took it because refusing coffee would not improve my character. Claire's dress hung in the doorway, pressed and finished. Her eyes went to it before she looked at me. You did the sleeves too? They were uneven. I thought that was the design. It was not a good design. She walked over and lifted the sheet. Her face softened at the sight of the dress. I could see the impulse to touch my arm, and I could see her decide against it. Grant sat at the kitchen table without being invited. He placed his coffee beside Alan's old ceramic sugar bowl and folded his hands. We should clear up a few things, he said. Claire remained standing. I took the chair across from him. Start with why I'm not invited. He looked at Claire again. For all his confidence, he understood that answer did not belong to him. She pulled out the third chair. I meant what I said before, she told me. After the dinner here, I felt like you didn't support us. I didn't give you $25,000. It wasn't just the money. I offered what I could. And then you questioned whether I even wanted my own wedding. I questioned whether you wanted that wedding. You always make that distinction so you can say something hurtful and call it concern. Grant reached for her hand. She moved hers to her lap before he could take it. I said, if you didn't want me there, why invite people because they're connected to me? They're connected to me too. Some of them. Not all. They remember me. That isn't the same as having a relationship. Her eyes flashed. Maybe I would have more relationships if you didn't act like you owned everyone. I leaned back. Grant said, nobody thinks you own anybody, Ruth. Thank you for clarifying. What Claire means is that this isn't your private social circle. These are people who watched her grow up. Mrs. Hanley watched my deductions. She sent a lovely response, Grant said before he could stop himself. Claire turned toward him. You invited her? She was in the book. So was the plumber, I said. Grant's mouth tightened. I used judgment. I wanted to ask him what judgment had selected a retired accountant who once attended a graduation and rejected a plumber who had repaired our downstairs bathroom. Instead, I asked how many names he had taken. I don't have the list in front of me. You created the list. Around 90 from the book. The rest are my side. Work friends and people Claire knows independently. 90. Invitations aren't subpoenas. People can decline. But they should know who is inviting them. We are inviting them. Your note told them I'd be happy to celebrate with them. His expression shifted. It was the first sign that he knew he had made a mistake. That line was meant warmly. Was it true? I assumed you'd be involved in some capacity. Claire looked at him. Why? He turned to her. Because she's your mother. You knew she wasn't coming. I knew we hadn't settled it. We settled it. There it was, sliding into the room without ceremony. Claire had not been forgotten, overruled, or confused. She had made the decision and told him. Grant rubbed his thumb along the lid of his cup. I thought once things cooled down, we could revisit that. After the invitations went out? I asked. It wasn't some calculated thing. No. You invited 90 people from my address book and told them I'd be happy to see them at a wedding where there was no seat for me. Claire's face crumpled for half a second, then hardened. I didn't want you there looking at me like this. Like what? Like you're waiting for me to realize I've made a mistake. I lowered my voice. Are you? Grant pushed his chair back. This is exactly the kind of conversation she was afraid of. Claire stood too. We should take the dress. I followed her into the sewing room. She reached for the hanger, but I kept one hand on it. Did you approve the guest list? Yes. Did you read Grant's note? Not every word. Did you know he was using my name? No. Grant appeared behind her. I wasn't using your name. I looked past Claire at him. Then send a correction. To 120 people? To everyone who received that sentence. That would make this look like a family dispute. It is a family dispute. It doesn't need to become everybody's business. It became everybody's business when you put me on the card. Claire pulled the dress gently from my hand. Please don't call people, she said. I haven't. Marianne's already reconsidering. Because she learned the truth. She learned your version. I looked at my daughter holding the dress I had fitted to her body, covered by the sheet from her father's old office. There shouldn't be versions of whether I was invited. Grant lifted the garment bag from the chair and helped Claire slide the dress inside. Even then, he was careful with it. At the front door, I asked for the green book again. I'll bring it this week, Claire said. Today. We have appointments all day. Tomorrow, then. She zipped the dress to the top. Fine. Grant opened the door, then paused. Would you at least call Marianne and tell her there was a misunderstanding? She's close to you, and if she backs out, other people may think they should too. I stared at him. Claire closed her eyes. No, I said. But when she calls me, I won't lie. They left without saying goodbye. Before their car had reached the end of my street, my phone rang. The name on the screen was Peter Delaney, Alan's older brother, the man beside whose number I had written, "Do not discuss politics." I answered. Ruth, he said cheerfully. What's this? I hear about you skipping Claire's wedding. I watched Claire's car turn the corner. I'm not skipping it, Peter. He laughed. Well, whatever you call it. Susan says we shouldn't go if you're making some kind of statement. I'm not making a statement. Then you'll be there. No. His voice changed. Why not? Because I wasn't invited. Peter did not speak for so long that I checked the screen to make sure the call had not dropped. What do you mean, not invited? I mean, no one invited me? To Claire's wedding. Yes, Peter. You're Claire? I only have the one. He covered the phone, but not well. I heard him say, she says they didn't invite her, followed by his wife Susan asking, who didn't invite who? Peter came back. Grant told me you weren't up to a large wedding. When did he tell you that? He called about the invitation. We were talking about travel, and I asked whether you needed anything. What did he say exactly? That things had been hard for you since Alan. He said weddings bring up a lot. For a moment, all I could see was Alan standing at the end of our driveway in his old brown jacket, waving me backward even though I had backed out of that driveway thousands of times. 4 years dead, and Grant was using him as a traffic signal. I never told Grant that. Well, I didn't think it sounded like you. Why didn't you call me? I'm calling now. Because Susan thought I was making a statement. Ruth, I'm trying to understand. So am I. Susan took the phone from him. You're truly not invited? That's what I've been saying. We assumed you were upset about the big event and decided not to go. Who told you I was upset? Grant didn't say upset. Not exactly. He said you'd encourage them to celebrate without worrying about you. I sat down at the kitchen table. I did not encourage that. Susan lowered her voice, though Peter was obviously standing beside her. Do you want us to decline? That's your decision. But would it hurt you if we went? Yes. The answer surprised all three of us. I closed my eyes. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't go. Claire is your niece. I won't ask you to punish her for me. Peter's voice came faintly through the phone. Nobody's punishing anybody. Susan said, Peter, hush. I mean it, I told her. If you want to be there, go. What are you going to do that day? I don't know yet. Well, we're not deciding tonight. After we hung up, I regretted admitting it would hurt. It felt like setting a dish on the edge of a counter and blaming someone else if it fell. My phone buzzed before I had time to move. Claire. What did you say to Uncle Peter? I typed, the truth. The 3 dots appeared immediately. Which version? I stared at that for several seconds. The one where I wasn't invited. She called instead of answering. Why are you involving people? She asked. Peter called me, and you couldn't just tell him to talk to us? He asked if I'd be there. You could have said no. He asked why. You don't owe everyone an explanation. Apparently, you've already given them one. What does that mean? Grant told Peter I was too overwhelmed by your wedding because of your father. He did not call Peter. He probably misunderstood. Then correct him. Claire breathed into the phone. Grant is trying to keep this from becoming ugly. No, Grant is trying to keep it from becoming visible. Same thing as far as you're concerned. I walked into the sewing room because I couldn't sit still. The rug was empty where Claire had stood for the fitting. 3 ivory threads clung to it. What have you told people? I asked. Nothing. Did you tell Beverly I wasn't coming? Of course. Why did you say? That we were keeping the ceremony intimate. Did you tell her the reception had 90 people from my address book? They're not all coming. That's not an answer. I'm not doing this again tonight. Then bring me the book. We still need it. For what? Thank you notes. Seating. There are addresses we haven't entered yet. You took it under false pretenses. Oh, come on. You told me moving announcements. We are moving. We will send announcements. After using it for something you knew I wouldn't approve. I knew you'd turn it into a question of permission. It was my book. It's a list of addresses, Mom. You didn't compose the Constitution. I sat at Alan's workbench and brushed the ivory threads into my palm. Bring it tomorrow. We can't. Grant's using it. That sentence settled something in me. No. What? No, he isn't. You can't stop him from reading names he already has. I can stop helping. You haven't helped. Exactly. I ended the call. 5 minutes later, Grant called. I let it ring twice before answering. I don't think Claire and I should keep doing this through you. That's fair, he said. I'm calling because Peter texted me. Of course he did. He's upset and Susan is talking about declining. They've already reserved a room. I told them to decide for themselves. But you told them you weren't invited. I wasn't. We always assumed you'd be at the reception. I stood. No, you didn't. I did. Then why didn't you send me an invitation? Because it would have felt ridiculous to mail one to Claire's mother. You mailed one to a woman who did my taxes. He sighed. Ruth. Did you put my name on the seating chart? The seating chart isn't finished. Did you count me in the meal number? I don't have it in front of me. You know whether I was included. This is turning into a cross-examination. It's one question. We can make room. The words scraped. Make room, I repeated. That came out wrong. No, it came out accurately. I'm trying to give you a solution. Does Claire want me there? Claire wants everyone to stop forcing her to defend herself. Then stop calling me. Before you hang up, will you please consider sending Peter a text? Tell him you and Claire are working it out. Are we? We could be. If I lie. I didn't ask you to lie. You're asking me to lend you a future that hasn't happened so you can use it in the present. He went quiet. It was the first time I had ever heard him without a ready sentence. I wish I could say it satisfied me. It didn't. It only made me tired. I'll return the address book, he said. When? Soon. Tomorrow. I'll see what I can do. After he hung up, I turned off my phone. My younger sister Joan let herself into my house 40 minutes later, carrying 2 containers of Thai food and a bottle of wine with a screw cap. You look terrible, she said. Thank you. You're welcome. Marianne called me. I took the bag from her. Marianne needs a hobby. She has one. It's us. Joan was 5 years younger than me and had spent those 5 years treating my dignity as an inefficient obstacle. She wore silver hoops, red glasses, and a raincoat patterned with yellow birds, though it had not rained all week. We took the food to the kitchen. She opened the wine before removing her coat. Tell me exactly what happened, she said. No. I drove across town. You live 12 minutes away. Traffic was emotional. I gave her the shortened version. Joan interrupted often and incorrectly. They invited everyone? Not everyone. Name one person they left out. Me. I meant besides you, the plumber. What's wrong with the plumber? Nothing. That was apparently the problem. By the time I finished, Joan had stopped eating. That worried me more than if she'd shouted. She let him do this? She asked. Yes. You're sure? She said she approved the list. Joan stood and carried her wine to the counter. Give me Grant's number. No, I'm not going to threaten him. What are you going to do? Ask him questions in a tone he won't enjoy. No, fine, give me Claire's. You have Claire's number. She considered that. Good point. I reached across the table and took her phone. I'm not recruiting people. This isn't recruitment. This is immediate family. I told Peter to make his own decision. Peter needs instructions to buy socks. He's still allowed. Joan watched me put her phone face down. You know what Claire's going to say, she said. She's going to say, this proves you make everything about you. She already has. And you're going to work so hard not to prove her right that you'll help them pretend this is normal. I'm not pretending. You finished the dress. That isn't the same thing. It isn't completely different. I looked toward the hallway. Joan's voice softened. Ruth, she can think you're overbearing. She can want space. You are overbearing. I appreciate your support. You reorganized my pantry while I was in the shower. You had flour from 2014. That's not the point. It was self-rising. It had given up. She smiled, then reached across the table and took my hand. She can be angry with you, Joan said. She still can't borrow your whole life and leave you home. That was the sentence I had been avoiding because it sounded too much like what I felt. I don't own those people. No, but you did the work. Alan did too. Yes, he would tell me to go. Joan thought about it. She had loved Alan enough not to turn him into whatever answer she wanted. He might, she said. Then he'd spend the entire reception beside the shrimp tray glaring at Grant. That's true. He had an excellent glare. He practiced on salesmen. Joan squeezed my hand once and released it. My phone remained off until morning. When I turned it on, there were 7 messages. 2 were from Claire, 1 from Grant, 1 from Peter, and 3 from people whose names were written in the green address book. The first belonged to Linda Carver, who had worked with Alan for 22 years. Grant said you might not attend. Everything okay? The second came from my cousin Diane. Call me before I book this hotel. The third was from Evelyn Hanley, retired accountant and apparently cherished wedding guest. Dear Ruth, I'm afraid I accepted under the impression you were hosting. Have I misunderstood? I answered Evelyn first. I'm not hosting, and I wasn't involved in the invitations. Please make whatever choice feels right to you. Then Diane. I'm not attending, but you should decide for yourself. Call if you want the details directly from me. Linda got the same truth in fewer words. When I finished, I opened Claire's messages. The first said, please stop telling people you were excluded. The second said, you were always going to be included somehow. I read somehow until it stopped looking like a word. Grant's message was practical. I'll bring the book by Sunday. Please direct invitation questions to us so guests don't receive conflicting information. I did not answer either of them. At 11, the landline rang. Almost no one used it except telemarketers and people who had known me long enough to remember the number before cell phones. I picked up. Ruth, a woman said. It's Beverly. Grant's mother had a low, composed voice that always made me sit straighter. Hello, Beverly. I hope I'm not interrupting. I wanted to ask you something before I order the corsages. I looked down at my bare kitchen table. All right. Grant said you don't want one if you're not attending, but that didn't sound right to me. I thought perhaps I should order it anyway, in case you change your mind. Change my mind about what? About coming to the wedding. I haven't decided not to come, I said. Beverly was silent. I waited until she asked, what does that mean? It means I was never invited. That can't be right. I thought so too. No, Ruth, I mean, there must be some confusion. Grant said you preferred not to participate. Why? He told us the change in plans had caused tension. He said you felt the wedding had become too elaborate and that attending would be difficult for you. Because of Alan? Another pause. Yes. I pressed my fingers against my forehead. Grant has been generous with my grief, I said, especially since he never asked me about it. Beverly made a quiet sound that was not quite a sigh. I had met her only 4 times, but she had always struck me as a woman who ironed pillowcases and disliked being caught without the correct fork. I could picture her sitting very straight wherever she was. "May I ask you something plainly?" she said. "Please." "Did you tell Claire you didn't approve of the wedding? I told them I couldn't contribute $25,000. I asked Claire if the large wedding was really what she wanted. That's not the same question. No, it wasn't received well." "I see. What did Grant tell you? That you had strong feelings about how they were spending money? That Claire wanted some distance and you agreed it would be better if she celebrated without having to worry about you?" I did not agree. "No, I understand that now." I leaned against the counter. "Did he tell you the ceremony was only 6 people? He said it was going to be at one point. Then, when the hotel became available, we encouraged them to reconsider." "You encouraged the larger wedding?" "We did. His father and I offered $15,000. We thought it was what they both wanted." There was no defensiveness in her voice, only careful accuracy. "I don't object to your contribution," I said. "I didn't think you did." Grant seemed to. Grant dislikes hearing no when he has already pictured yes. The observation was so dry and precise that I almost laughed. Beverly continued, "That is not an excuse. It is a long-standing inconvenience." I sat down. "I'm not asking you to take sides. I'm his mother. I already have a side, whether I want one or not. That doesn't mean you have to defend what he did. No. It means I have to be certain before I decide what to say to him. I appreciated that more than immediate outrage. Immediate outrage is often just vanity wearing armor." "Did you know he invited people from my address book?" I asked. "I knew Claire had provided contacts. Grant said the 2 of you were working on the guest list together. We were not. Did you know he included a note saying I'd be happy to celebrate with them?" "No. I have a photograph of it." "I believe you." I heard the faint click of a pen. "What are you writing?" "Not you," she said. "I was making a note about the corsages." Despite everything, I smiled. "Don't order one for me. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that." "I'm sure. Would you attend if Claire invited you now?" The question went directly through every prepared answer I had. "I don't know. That seems fair." "Beverly, I don't want a scene. Neither do I. Will you call Grant?" "Yes." I closed my eyes. "I won't discuss it with anyone else," she added. "But I won't repeat the story that you chose not to attend. That's all I'm asking. It isn't all you should be asking." Before I could respond, she thanked me for speaking plainly and ended the call. Claire called 14 minutes later. "What did you say to Beverly?" I looked at the clock. "She works quickly. She called Grant while he was driving. That sounds unsafe." "Mom, she called me about a corsage, and you told her everything. I answered her questions. You know she judges people. I've met the woman 4 times. I'm marrying her son. I know her. Then why did you let her believe I chose not to come?" Claire's voice dropped. "Because it was easier." "For whom?" "For everyone. Not for me. You weren't supposed to know yet." The words came out too quickly for her to retrieve them. "Know what, that we'd changed the plans? When were you going to tell me?" "I don't know. After your wedding? I was trying to figure out how." "No. You were trying to figure out how not to." She hung up. That afternoon, I went to the grocery store because I had run out of coffee filters and because staying home had begun to feel like waiting for a verdict. I made it through produce without seeing anyone I knew, which in our town counted as a miracle. Near the dairy case, Evelyn Hanley intercepted me with a carton of eggs in each hand. brown or white?" she asked. "Whichever is cheaper, they're the same price. Then I can't help you." She put both cartons in her cart. Evelyn was 72 and still wore the same square glasses she had worn while explaining deductions to me and Alan. She looked at me for a moment, then touched my sleeve. "I'm sorry about the wedding. Thank you." I declined. "You didn't have to." "I know. That's why it felt good." "Evelyn, I don't like being invited under misleading circumstances. Grant may not see it that way." Grant registered for a $1,200 espresso machine. I saw. My machine costs $39 and has served me faithfully for 11 years. Perhaps it lacks ambition. She smiled, then sobered. "I also don't know Claire well anymore. I accepted because I thought it mattered to you. That's what bothers me. It should. I'm not trying to turn people against them. You're not powerful enough to make me attend a hotel wedding with valet parking, Ruth." She patted my arm and rolled away with both cartons of eggs. Claire was waiting on my front step when I got home. She stood as I pulled into the driveway. Her arms were folded and she had no purse, no coat, and no address book. I carried the groceries to the door. "Are you here to return something?" "No." I unlocked the house. "Then you can help with the bags." She took one without arguing. Inside, she put the milk away in the wrong place, then moved it before I could comment. "Beverly called me too," she said. "What did she say?" "That she was disappointed in how we handled it." That sounds restrained. "She doesn't yell. She makes you wish she would." I put the coffee filters in the pantry. "Grant thinks you set her up." Grant answered his phone. "He thinks you wanted her to shame him. I wanted her to stop ordering a corsage for a woman she thought had refused to attend." Claire sat at the table. "Why can't you just say you're upset with me?" "I have." "No. You keep talking about invitations and guest lists and what people were told. You keep building a case. Because every time someone calls, I learn something new. You like having facts. They make you feel innocent." I closed the pantry door. "What do you want me guilty of?" "Making it impossible for me to want anything without wondering what you think. I didn't choose this wedding. You have an opinion about it. Everyone has opinions, Claire. Not everyone's opinion fills the room." She looked exhausted. There were faint shadows beneath her eyes that makeup had not covered. "When Dad died," she said, "you called me every morning at 7:30. I was checking on you. You were checking whether I was checking on you. If I didn't answer, you called again. Then you'd tell me not to worry. I was alone. So was I. That landed where it was meant to." She continued before I could answer. "At the funeral, you corrected where the flowers were placed. You made me change the restaurant reservation because Uncle Peter didn't like the menu. You decided who sat with whom, who needed rides, who took food home. Everyone told me how strong you were. I spent the entire day asking people if they needed coffee. I didn't know. You didn't ask." I sat across from her. "You're right," I said. She looked up, suspicious. "I used being busy because I didn't know how to be anything else. I made you part of that without asking. I'm sorry." Her face changed. She blinked and looked away. "You do that," she said. "What? You apologize so reasonably that I end up feeling unreasonable. I don't know how to apologize worse." A small laugh escaped her. She pressed her lips together. I reached across the table but stopped before touching her. "I am sorry," I said, "and I can work on that whether I go to your wedding or not." Claire rubbed the cardboard sleeve of her coffee, though the cup was no longer there. "Beverly wants us to invite you. Do you?" "I don't know anymore." That's an answer. It's not a good one. It's more honest than the others. She looked toward the hall, where her dress had hung the day before. "I wanted one day where I wasn't watching your face," she said. "Then why invite everyone who knows my face? That's not fair. It's the part I can't understand. Grant wanted the room to feel balanced. His family is huge. His side would have been full, and mine would have looked—" She stopped. "Looked what? Empty?" I thought of all 90 names lifted from the green book. "So you filled it with my people. They're not just yours." "No, but you didn't call them. I'm calling them now. Because you're getting married. Is that a crime? No, it's a celebration. That's why it's strange to celebrate the relationships without the person who kept them alive. She stood. There it is. What? The reason everyone will take your side. You're the one who remembers birthdays and sends soup and knows who's divorced. I'm the ungrateful daughter who didn't earn any of it. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. At the door, I said, bring the book back. Grant needs it until the RSVPs are in. No, he wants it. Same result. She opened the door. Claire. She turned. I can be wrong about how I've treated you and still be right about this. Her eyes filled, which made mine do the same. I know, she said. That's the worst part. She left. Sunday afternoon, Grant came alone. He carried a yellow legal pad, 2 printed response lists, and no green address book. I told you to bring it. I know. But before we do that, we need to solve the guest problem. He placed the lists on my table. Names were marked yes, no, or pending. Several had notes beside them. Call again, needs hotel, close to Ruth. I did not touch the pages. Grant tapped the pending column. A lot of these people aren't responding to us. They'll respond to you. You want me to call them. Not all of them. Maybe 10. To ask them to attend a wedding I'm not invited to ask them to support Claire. I looked at the note beside Marianne's name. Close to Ruth, influences others. Get that book out of your apartment, I said. Ruth, can we please be practical? I am being practical. If these people decline because you're angry, Claire is the one who gets hurt. They didn't decline because I'm angry. They're declining because you misled them. His jaw tightened. I was trying to give her a room full of people who cared, he said. You think everything I do is some kind of performance, but she was afraid no one would come for her. And you thought they would come for me. I thought they'd come because you asked. I didn't. That can still be fixed. He pushed the list toward me. I pushed it back. No, I said, it can't. Grant stared at the list between us. It can't be fixed for whom? He asked. For you. I'm not the only person affected. No. You made sure of that. He pulled the paper back and squared it against the edge of the table. His movements became more precise when he was angry. Claire is embarrassed. So am I. She feels rejected by people she thought cared about her. Did she care about them before she needed seats filled? That's unfair. It's a question. No, it's one of your questions with an answer inside it. I almost smiled. Claire said the same thing. Maybe you should listen. I am listening. I hear you asking me to pretend I helped invite people so they'll come. I'm asking you to make a few calls. What would I say? He spread his hands. Tell them Claire would love to see them. Tell them it's important to the family. Which family? His mouth went flat. Ruth, you don't have to like me. I did like you. Past tense? Today, yes. That reached him. For all his polish, Grant wanted to be liked. Not loved necessarily. Liked, approved of, welcomed into rooms. It was one of the reasons I had trusted him with Claire. He usually worked hard to be good company. He looked down at the legal pad. I was trying to do something for her, he said. I believe you. His head came up. That doesn't make it right. I didn't steal these people. No. You borrowed my history and told them I'd co-sign the loan. Can you stop turning every sentence into a verdict? Bring back the book. We need it for thank you notes. You have the addresses, not all the details. What details? He did not answer. I reached for the top page. Grant put his hand over it. They're my response lists. You put them on my table. And now I'm taking them. He gathered the pages and slid them into a folder. One corner caught on the metal clasp, leaving Marianne's name visible. Close to Ruth, influences others. Did you write that? I asked. It's a planning note. She's a person. I know she's a person. Then why does it sound like you're moving pieces around a board? Because events require planning. People influence each other. If Marianne attends, Joan is more likely to attend. If Joan attends, your cousins are more comfortable. That isn't sinister. It's how families work. My sister makes up her own mind. Your sister asked Claire whether you wanted her to decline. I hadn't known that. When? This morning. What did Claire say? That it was up to her. Good. But Joan said she wouldn't come if you weren't there. I looked toward the bottle of wine we had not finished the night before. Grant tucked the folder beneath his arm. I'm not inventing the chain reaction, he said. I'm trying to stop it. By putting me at the beginning, you are at the beginning. No, your invitation is. He stood. If you won't help, fine. But don't act surprised when Claire sees this as you choosing your pride over her. I walked him to the door. You're very comfortable explaining what Claire sees. She's going to be my wife. She's been my daughter for 36 years. Neither of us gets to see for her. He paused on the porch. I'll return the book after the wedding. No, we still need it. It belongs to me, and you'll get it back. That isn't your decision. His face changed just enough to reveal that he knew it was. The book was in his apartment. I had no key, no claim he considered urgent, and no appetite for turning a cloth-bound collection of addresses into a physical struggle. I'll talk to Claire, he said. Do that. He left carrying his folder. Claire called before his car had cleared the block. He was trying to help, she said. Does he call you from the driveway or wait until the corner? He came there because he thought you'd be more reasonable in person. He brought a list of people for me to pressure. He brought names of people who care about me. Then why do they need pressure? Because you're telling everyone I excluded you. You did. I told you I needed space. You invited my accountant into that space. Stop with Mrs. Hanley. She declined, by the way. Claire made a sound like I had slapped her. You spoke to her? She contacted me because she thought I was hosting. And what did you say? That I wasn't. Did you tell her not to come? No. But you made sure she knew how hurt you were. I did not discuss my feelings. You don't have to. You've built an entire language out of being technically polite. That was close enough to true that I had no immediate answer. Claire took my silence as an opening. Just this once. Could you not make everything about you? I sat on the narrow bench beside the front door. Your fiancé invited 90 people from my address book, used my name to reassure them, told your uncle I was too overcome by grief to attend, told his mother I chose not to participate, and came to my house to ask me to fill your pending seats. I know what happened. Then tell me which part isn't about me. The wedding. She said it softly. That hurt more than when she raised her voice. You're right, I said. It's your wedding. I won't interfere with it. Thank you. But you do not get to use my name. We'll take it off the website. It's on a card in people's homes. We can't retrieve the invitations. Then correct it when people ask. We're not sending an announcement about a family fight. I didn't ask you to. Tell the truth individually. Which is what? That my mother won't come because she wasn't invited early enough? That your mother was not invited at all? We said you could come. Grant said he could make room. It's the same result. No, Claire. What do you want from me? I almost answered too quickly. An apology. A chair. The return of my book. A daughter who wanted me beside her without needing my usefulness. I want you to stop telling people I chose this. She went quiet. We'll talk later, she said. She hung up before promising anything. That evening was the first Thursday of the month, when I usually fed whoever arrived between 6 and 7. The habit had started after Alan died. Joan claimed I was afraid to eat lasagna alone, which was ridiculous because I had eaten it alone on several perfectly successful occasions. Still, I made a full pan. Marianne came carrying salad. Joan brought garlic bread and no wine because she said we had become dependent on symbolism. Linda Carver arrived last with a grocery store pie and the anxious brightness of someone entering a room where she expected broken glass. I had not invited Evelyn, but she showed up anyway with her $39 coffee maker under one arm. It stopped working, she announced. Why did you bring it here? You defended it. I said it had served you faithfully. Then it deserves a proper burial. Joan took the machine from her. We'll put it beside the smart herb garden. For 20 minutes, we managed to talk about anything except the wedding, Evelyn's coffee maker, Linda's leaking porch roof, a man Marianne had met through a walking group who claimed to be separated but still wore his wedding ring for circulation. Then Joan asked Linda if she was going. Linda set down her fork. "I haven't decided." "You reserved a room," Marianne said. "I can cancel." "You don't need my permission," I told her. "I know." Everyone looked at me. "I mean that," I said. Linda folded her napkin. Alan loved Claire. Yes, he would want people to show up for her. My chest tightened, though Linda's voice held no accusation. "He would," I said. "Then I may go." Joan opened her mouth. I pointed my fork at her. "No." I didn't say anything. You inhaled judgmentally. "I have allergies." Linda looked relieved enough to make me feel ashamed. "I care about Claire," she said. "I also care about you. Both can be true. I know. If I go, I won't pretend I think this was handled well. Don't discuss me at her wedding. I wasn't planning to deliver a speech." "Good. Grant may charge you for the microphone." Marianne laughed. The tension broke, but not completely. Later, while Joan washed dishes and Evelyn inspected my coffee maker as though considering a trade, Linda found me wrapping the leftover lasagna. "Are you angry with me?" she asked. "No." "You hesitated." "I'm hurt. That's different." She nodded. "Fair. I don't want everyone proving loyalty by staying home, but part of you does." "Yes." It felt ugly to say and cleaner once I had. Linda touched my shoulder. "I might still decide not to go. Decide for yourself." "I am trying." After everyone left, I found an envelope tucked beneath the salad bowl. Marianne had left her invitation. She had written "declined" across the RSVP card but had not mailed it. I called her. "You forgot something." "No, I didn't. I said not to decide for me." "I didn't. I decided for myself. Why leave it here? So you'd believe me. I already believed you." "That's generous." I didn't. The next morning, Diane forwarded me an email from Grant. She had asked why I was not attending. His response was 3 sentences long. "Ruth has chosen to celebrate privately due to personal feelings about the event. We fully respect her decision and hope everyone else will join us without concern. Claire has her mother's love and support." Below it, Diane had written one question. "Is this true?" I answered her first. "No." Then I started a group text to Claire and Grant. "Do not tell anyone I declined or chose to celebrate privately. I was not invited when the guest list was made. If you continue giving people a false explanation, I will correct it each time I am asked." Grant replied within a minute. "Understood." Claire took nearly an hour. "You've made your point." I typed 3 different answers and erased them all. My point, as she called it, was somewhere in an apartment across town, held together with clear tape, while my daughter's future husband used it to decide which parts of my life were likely to fill a ballroom. I set the phone down without replying. My own invitation arrived on Monday in a plain white envelope, not the thick cream one Marianne had received. The return address belonged to Claire and Grant's apartment. My name was printed on a label that leaned slightly downhill. Inside was a single card with the date, hotel, and ceremony time. No reception details, no registry card, no note about filling a room with the people who had loved Claire longest. Someone had crossed out guest and written Ruth in blue ink. I called Claire. "Did you send me an invitation?" "What? There's one in my hand." "Oh. That's not usually the response people hope for." She spoke away from the phone. "Did you mail something to my mother?" Grant answered in the background, too low for me to understand. Claire came back. "He thought it was the simplest way to settle this." "Settle what?" "Whether you're invited." "Did you know he was sending it?" "No. Do you want me to come?" Another conversation happened on her end without words. I could hear a cabinet close and the rush of running water. "Mom, I can't answer that while you're asking like this." "How should I ask?" "You make every answer sound like evidence. I'm holding evidence. It came with postage. This is what you wanted. I wanted you to want me there. I wanted you there before all of this. That isn't true. I wanted the version of you who could just be happy for me. There was so much packed into the sentence that I had to sit down. Claire, I am happy you found someone you love. You don't sound happy. I'm not happy with how he's treating me. And you don't understand that I'm part of him now. I understand you're marrying him. I don't understand why loving him requires lying about me. We stopped. After I threatened to correct you, you didn't have to call it a threat. What would you call it? A campaign. I looked at the invitation again. The blue ink had bled slightly into the card where Grant wrote my name. Is my seat at the ceremony or the reception? Both, I assume. The card only lists the ceremony? Then it's probably an older insert. Does the hotel know I'm eating? Why are you doing this? Because Grant said he could make room. I'd like to know whether he did. I'll ask him. No, don't. What do you want? A daughter who can tell me whether she wants me at her wedding without checking with the caterer. I have to go. The line went dead. I left the invitation on the counter beside the fruit bowl. Every time I passed it, I considered throwing it away. Instead, I moved it from the counter to the hall cabinet, then from the cabinet to my bedroom dresser, as if the correct location might reveal what it meant. Joan arrived that evening carrying a screwdriver. What broke? I asked. Nothing. I'm returning this. It isn't mine. It was in your garage. That doesn't make it mine. It had Alan's initials on it. She handed me the screwdriver and saw the invitation on the dresser behind me. Is that what I think it is? Depends what you think. I think it's a cheap emergency invitation delivered after the groom's mother discovered the groom was behaving like a raccoon in a pantry. That's specific. May I? I gave her the card. She inspected the crossed-out guest. He didn't even use a fresh one. Maybe garden formal discourages waste. You're not going. I haven't decided. Joan stared at me. You haven't decided? She's my daughter. She didn't send this. She didn't stop him. That is not the romantic endorsement you think it is. I don't think it's romantic. Then what are we discussing? I sat on the edge of the bed. If I don't go, I miss Claire getting married. Yes. If I do go, I sit in a chair they added because people asked questions. Yes. You could pretend one of those answers is painless. I could, but you'd reorganize my pantry again. She placed the card beside me. Do you want advice or a witness? She asked. A witness? I can do that. She sat next to me. We looked at the invitation between us. After a minute, Joan said, The handwriting is terrible. You're advising. I'm witnessing poorly. Beverly called the next morning and asked if she could stop by. She arrived at 11 with a bakery box tied in string and a handbag large enough to contain medical equipment. I brought almond cake, she said. You didn't have to. I know. That's what makes it a gift. She removed her coat and hung it neatly over the back of a chair. The cake had sliced almonds pressed into the top and a light dusting of sugar. Beverly declined coffee, tea, and water, then accepted coffee when I made it without asking. I told Grant I was coming, she said. How did he take that? He asked why. And, I said, because you invited me. I almost smiled. Beverly stirred her coffee, though she had not added anything to it. He showed me your message, she said. The one about correcting the story? Yes. I'm sorry you were pulled into this. I'm not. I'm sorry I helped create someone who thinks an uncomfortable truth can be improved by changing its wording. You also created someone who moves branches out of driveways. She looked surprised. He did that for me, I explained. In the rain. He can be very thoughtful. I know. That makes it more confusing, doesn't it? Yes. Beverly set down her spoon. When Grant was growing up, every occasion in our family became a production. His father's side is large and competitive. If one cousin had 50 people at an anniversary dinner, someone else had 60. We told ourselves it was about togetherness. And it wasn't? Some of it was. Some of it was counting. Her gaze moved to the framed photograph on the wall. Alan and me on our 25th anniversary. We were holding paper plates. I participated, she said. I taught Grant that a full room proves people love you. That's what he's trying to give Claire. I believe so. By borrowing the room. Beverly nodded. He told me he sent you an invitation. He did. Will you go? I asked Claire if she wanted me. She couldn't answer. I'm not sure she knows. That doesn't make me want to sit there. No. I cut another piece of cake even though neither of us had finished the first. Are you going? I asked. Yes. She did not hesitate. That must sound hypocritical. It sounds like your son invited you. He did, and I'm still his mother. There was no challenge in it. I appreciated her refusing to pretend her attendance was a moral decision. She would be there for her son, even while thinking he was wrong. That was allowed. Love was not a jury. I won't create a scene, she said. I won't confront him at the wedding. I won't encourage guests to take sides. Thank you. But I did tell him he owes you an honest explanation. He thinks the explanation is that Claire needed people. He thinks intention should receive more weight than consequence. Most of us do when the intention is ours. Beverly smiled faintly. You're not as easy to dislike as he currently finds you. I can try harder. I'm sure you could. When she left, she took one slice of cake wrapped in foil and made me keep the rest. At the door, she turned back. Ruth, if you come, you may sit with us. That's kind. It is not a solution. No, but it is true. That afternoon, Peter called again. Susan had decided they should attend the ceremony and skip the reception. That sounds more complicated than either yes or no, I said. She says it splits the difference. What do you say? I say the hotel already charged one night. Then go. You really mean that? I mean, you should stop asking me to decide. We're not asking you to decide. We're asking whether you'll be hurt. I'll be hurt either way. Peter went quiet. I wish Alan were here, he said. So do I. He'd know what to do. No, he wouldn't. Peter laughed softly. He'd pretend that he would. After we hung up, I took the invitation out of the bedroom and put it back on the kitchen counter. Claire did not call for 2 days. On Thursday evening, she sent a photograph of herself in the dress. She was standing in front of a long mirror at the alteration shop, even though I had already altered it. Someone had added a narrow jeweled belt at the waist. The dress fit perfectly. Her hair was pinned up loosely, and she looked older than the woman I had hemmed for and younger than the woman who had lied to me. Does the belt look stupid? She wrote. I enlarged the picture. No. But move it half an inch higher, she replied with a heart. I stared at that small red symbol until my eyes blurred. Then another message arrived. I didn't know Grant mailed the invitation, but I'm not taking it back. That was as close as she had come to saying she wanted me there. I typed, that is not the same as asking me to come. Her answer came 5 minutes later. I know. The following morning, I found Grant standing on my porch before 8. The green address book was not in his hands. He had no folder, no legal pad, and no coffee. His beard looked less exact than usual. Claire doesn't know I'm here, he said. I'm beginning to think that's how you prefer to handle things. I need 10 minutes. I opened the door but did not invite him farther than the living room. He remained standing. 15 people have declined since this started, he said. I didn't ask them to. I know. That stopped me. He rubbed one hand over his face. I know you didn't organize anything. I know most of them contacted you first. Then why are you here? Because Claire thinks those people chose you over her. They didn't. She thinks they did. What do you think? I think I made assumptions I shouldn't have made. It was not an apology, but it was the first sentence that faced the correct direction. I thought if people knew you were supportive, they'd feel connected to the wedding, he said. I didn't think you'd see that as using you. You told them things that weren't true. I thought they would become true. I looked at him. That may be the most honest thing you've said. He nodded once. Come to the wedding, he said. Does Claire want me there? She won't say she doesn't. That isn't enough. What would be enough? For her to ask. He paced once to the window and back. She is trying to protect herself. From me? From needing you. The words hurt because I believed them. Grant put both hands in his coat pockets. If you stay home, She'll remember that longer than she remembers how the invitation happened. And if I go, she may remember that she can erase me and still expect me to appear when it becomes uncomfortable. You're her mother. I am. That isn't a command. He looked toward the kitchen, where the invitation waited beside the fruit bowl. The seat is there, he said. So is the choice. Yes, for both of us. He left without arguing. When I closed the door, I saw he had placed something on the small table beside the couch. It was an RSVP card. My name had already been written on the acceptance line. All I had to do was check the box. I did not check either box. I turned the card over. The back was blank except for a faint gold smudge near one corner. Grant had filled in my name but left the decision unfinished, which was either respectful or strategic. With him, the two could occupy the same chair. I placed the card beneath the invitation and went upstairs to change the sheets. By noon, I had cleaned 2 bathrooms, washed a load of towels that were already clean, and alphabetized the spices. Joan arrived while I was holding cumin and celery salt. "What happened in here?" she asked. "Nothing. Paprika is never that organized unless someone's life is collapsing." I showed her the RSVP card. She read it, turned it over, and held it up to the light. "What are you looking for?" "Hidden instructions." "There aren't any." "Then he's losing his touch." I took the card back. "He came here and asked me to go," Grant asked. "Yes." "Did Claire?" "No." Joan opened the refrigerator, stared inside, and closed it. "Do you want to?" "I want to have gone. That isn't the same thing." "I know." She leaned against the counter. "When do they need an answer?" "I suspect whenever I stop being difficult. You could attend and be difficult there. I don't want to punish her at her wedding." "Then don't. Wear beige and chew quietly. I don't own anything beige." "I know. It's one of your better qualities. I put the cumin between coriander and curry powder." "What if she regrets it?" I asked. "She will. How you sound sure." "I don't know if she'll regret excluding you. She'll regret some part of the day. Everybody does. I regret the ice sculpture at mine." "You didn't have an ice sculpture." "Exactly." "I regret not having one." I looked at her. "Fine," she said. "I regret marrying Dennis, but that seemed too broad." Joan had divorced Dennis 18 years earlier and continued to send him birthday cards because she said hatred required an unreasonable filing system. She reached for my hand. "Go if missing it will poison you," she said. "Stay home if being used will. Just don't choose based on which one makes Claire less angry. That option is gone." Claire texted that afternoon. "Can we meet without Grant?" I agreed to a coffee shop halfway between our houses. She was already seated when I arrived, turning a paper cup between both hands. A small stack of wedding place cards lay beside her purse, secured with a rubber band. "You're working here?" I asked. I had to get out of the apartment. I sat across from her. "Why?" "Grant and I are fighting. About me?" "Among other things." I waited. Claire pulled the rubber band off the cards, then put it back on. "He shouldn't have mailed the invitation without asking me." "No. He thinks I've made this impossible. Have you?" She looked at me sharply. "Can you try not to sound pleased?" "I'm not pleased. You sound calm. It feels the same." A barista called a name no one claimed. The espresso machine hissed behind the counter. "Grant said he came to your house," Claire said. "He did. He said you refused. I said I needed you to ask. I'm asking now." The words came too fast. I looked at her. "Ask." She glanced toward the window. "Come to the wedding." My heart moved before the rest of me did. "Do you want me there?" "I just asked you." "You told me to come. Is there a special form?" "There is a difference between wanting me and needing this problem to end. I can't prove what's in my head. No." "Then why do you keep demanding proof?" "Because your actions have all said the opposite." Claire pushed the place cards aside. "I didn't want you at the original courthouse ceremony." "That's true. And the hotel ceremony. I didn't know what I wanted by then, but you invited everyone else. Grant sent most of those invitations, with your approval." "I know." She rubbed her forehead. "We had 43 people from his side," she said. I had 9. Before the address book, who were your 9? Friends, people from work, Joan, my sister. She's my aunt. Did she say yes? No. I nodded. Don't do that, Claire said. Do what? That little nod like the numbers have proven your case. I'm listening. No, you're counting. It was what she had accused Grant of, though she did not seem to notice. Why did it matter if his side was larger? I asked. Because it did. To whom? To me. I accepted that. Claire picked up one of the place cards. She had written names in green ink. The lettering was careful but not graceful. When we started making the list, I realized I didn't know how to reach half the people I thought of as family. She said, "You always did that part. You sent the Christmas cards. You planned the reunions. You called people. I'd show up and everyone already knew what was happening. So, you took the book. I borrowed it. You lied about why. Yes." The admission was bare enough to surprise me. Why not ask me to help? Because then it would become your wedding. I felt the old instinct rise, to list every way I would have behaved, every boundary I could have honored. I let it pass. "Maybe you're right," I said. Claire's eyes narrowed. "I might have overstepped," I continued. "I might have asked too many questions, but you didn't give me a chance to do better. You decided I would fail and used what I built anyway." Her face tightened. "I didn't use what you built. What do you call it?" "My family." "Then why did Grant write close to Ruth beside their names?" She looked up. "What?" "He brought response lists to my house. He had notes. Close to Ruth. Influences others. Needs hotel." Claire stared at me. I didn't know that. He was planning. He was categorizing people. Those can be the same thing. She stood and walked to the trash can with her empty cup, though the conversation was not finished. When she returned, she remained standing. "Beverly says if you come, you can sit with them." She told me, "Peter and Susan are coming to the ceremony." "I know, Linda is coming." Diane hasn't answered. Marianne and Mrs. Hanley declined. Joan declined. I know most of that too. See? You know everything. Because people call me. Exactly. I looked at her. She sat again, suddenly tired. "I'm sorry," she said. "That came out wrong." "No, it came out honestly. I want one part of my life where you aren't the switchboard. Then stop routing calls through me." She looked down at her place cards. "We found you a seat at table 6, she said. "With Beverly and Richard. Found me a seat. Don't." Is that what Grant meant when he said he made room? We had to redo the table because 2 people declined. There it was, not a place saved, a vacancy repurposed. If no one had declined, I asked, where would I sit? We would have adjusted. When? Mom. When people asked why I wasn't there, her eyes filled with anger or tears. With Claire, the two had always arrived together. You'd rather be right than come. No, I'd rather have been wanted before it became embarrassing not to want me. I do want you there. Why? Because you're my mother. That was true when you made the list. She stood again and shoved the place cards into her purse. I knew this was a mistake. Meeting me? Asking. I reached for the RSVP card in my handbag. I had brought it without admitting to myself that I had. I placed it on the table. I can't come under these circumstances. Claire stared at it. Then checked the box. I'm telling you directly. Check it. I took a pen from my bag and marked "Will not attend." The square was small. My check mark touched both sides. Claire picked up the card. "Now everyone can stop wondering," she said. "No. Now you can tell them I declined after being invited at the last minute. If they ask, I will still tell them how it happened. So this never ends. It ends when people stop asking." She slid the card into her purse. At least Grant was right about one thing. What? You don't want a solution? She walked out before I could answer. The coffee shop had grown crowded. A man took Claire's chair while it was still warm and asked whether I was using the other half of the table. I told him no. I sat there until my coffee went cold, wondering whether I had just protected myself or punished my daughter. The two could occupy the same chair, too. Grant did not call. Claire sent nothing for 3 days. The wedding was the following Saturday. People who had delayed their decisions began making them without me. Diane declined and sent Claire a gift. Peter and Susan kept their reservation. Linda confirmed she was attending. Marianne mailed her refusal. Joan said she had made plans with me, though she had not asked whether I wanted plans. I did not contact any guest. On Wednesday, Grant sent a group email with parking instructions. I received it because he had added my address after mailing the late invitation. The message ended with, "We can't wait to celebrate with all of you." No mention of me. That was what I had demanded, and it hurt anyway. Thursday evening, I set the table for the usual dinner and then put everything away. I could not bear another conversation in which every person measured attendance against affection. Marianne called at 7. "I'm outside with salad," she said. "I canceled. You didn't tell anyone. I didn't invite anyone. You never invite us. We just arrive." I opened the door. She stood with Joan, Evelyn, and Linda. Linda had come even though she was still attending the wedding. For one ugly second, I wanted to ask why. Instead, I let them in. No one mentioned Saturday until dessert. Then Linda said, "I'll call you afterward." "Don't," I replied too quickly. She set down her fork. "I'm sorry," I said. "I don't want to report. I wasn't offering one. I was offering to call because it may be a hard day." "Oh." Joan cleared her throat. "We're taking Ruth to lunch." "We are?" I asked. "Yes. Somewhere with cloth napkins and no hotel block. I don't need supervision." "No," Marianne said. "You need lunch." The evening before the wedding, Claire finally called. It was after 10. I was in bed with a book open on my chest, reading the same paragraph for the 4th time. "Are you awake?" she asked. "I am now." "That's a lie." "Yes." I heard her breathing. "Is everything all right?" "The dress is fine, Grant is fine, everything's fine." "Then why are you calling?" Another long breath. "I keep thinking you'll change your mind." I closed the book. "Do you want me to?" "I don't know what I want. I believe you. That doesn't help. I'm not sure anything I say tonight will." She was quiet for so long I thought she had put the phone down. Then she said, "Dad would have come." Yes, he would have come no matter how I invited him. The sentence went through me cleanly. "Probably," I said. "So you admit it. Your father and I weren't the same person." "No. He knew when to let something go. He also had me doing the work of remembering every hurt." She made a small sound. "That was cruel," I said. "I'm sorry." "No, it was true." I sat up in bed. "Claire, I love you. If you loved me, you'd be there. I loved you before there was a seat for me." She began to cry, quietly and angrily. I gripped the phone with both hands. "I can't fix this tonight," I said. "You could." "No, I could cover it." She ended the call without saying goodbye. I remained sitting in the dark, listening to the empty line, while downstairs the green books drawer stayed open by half an inch, waiting for something that was not coming home. I woke before 6 and reached for the phone before remembering I had nowhere to be. The weather was clear. Of course it was. After a week of forecasts threatening rain, the sky had arranged itself into a flawless blue insult. I made coffee, burned the first piece of toast, and listened to the local radio host complain about traffic near the football stadium. At 7:30, I opened the hall drawer and stared at the empty space where the green book belonged. At 8, Beverly texted, "I won't keep asking, but your seat remains available. Ceremony is at 4. I wrote, "Thank you for being kind to me." Her answer came a moment later. Kindness would have been easier earlier. I did not know whether she meant Grant, Claire, herself, or all of us. At 9, I took a navy dress from the back of my closet. It was the one I had planned to wear when Claire first got engaged. Knee-length, long sleeves, small pearl buttons. Alan had once said it made me look like a woman who could deny a loan. I put it on. The zipper stuck halfway up, and I stood in front of the mirror, twisting one arm behind me until my shoulder cramped. When I finally succeeded, the dress still fit. That seemed unnecessarily cruel, too. I added earrings, then lipstick. At 10:15, Joan walked into my bedroom without knocking and stopped. "Oh," she said. "I was checking whether it still fit. Of course. I'm not going. I didn't ask. You made a face. I have a face." She was wearing black pants, a white blouse, and the yellow bird raincoat despite the sun. "Why are you dressed for a business lunch?" I asked. "Because we're having lunch. At 11? I assumed you'd need a long meal." I looked at myself again. Joan sat on the bed. "You could still go." "I know. I'm not telling you to. I know. If you want me to stop talking, you have to say something other than I know." "I know." She threw a pillow at me. I changed into gray slacks and a blue sweater. The navy dress stayed on the bed, its zipper open, the sleeves folded inward like empty arms. We ate at a French restaurant 20 minutes away where the tables were small and the waiter poured water as though it were expensive. Joan had asked Marianne to join us, but I made her cancel. "I don't want a committee," I said. She was going to bring a card game. That proves my point. Joan ordered champagne. We're not celebrating. We're not mourning either. What does that leave? Drinking at lunch. I ordered soup. Joan ordered steak and ate half of my bread before her food arrived. Neither of us mentioned the wedding for almost 40 minutes. We discussed the leak in Linda's porch roof, Evelyn's replacement coffee maker, and whether Joan's neighbor was secretly feeding the stray cat she claimed to hate. Then my phone vibrated against the table. Peter. I let it ring. It rang again. "Answer it," Joan said. "He knows what today is. That may be why he's calling." I picked up. Peter's voice came through over a confusion of voices and rolling luggage. "We made it. Good. The hotel is nice. Too nice, if you ask me. They charged $6 for a bottle of water. Alan would have left. He would have filled a bottle in the bathroom." Joan held out her hand for the phone. I moved it away. Peter lowered his voice. "Are you sure?" "About what?" "Not coming." "Yes. They put your name at our table." My fingers tightened around the phone. "What?" "There's a place card. Susan says I shouldn't have told you." Susan's voice sounded in the background. "Because she asked not to be bothered, Peter." "I'm not bothering her. You called twice." I said, "Is the place card at table 6? "I don't know. We're just looking at the board." "Yes." 6, with Beverly and Richard. The vacancy repurposed, now printed in green ink. "Leave it there," I said. "What?" "Don't move anything. Don't ask anyone. Just enjoy the wedding. Ruth, I mean it." Susan took the phone. "I'm sorry," she said. "He thought the card might change your mind. It won't. We're here for Claire. That doesn't mean we approve." "I understand. Do you want us to leave after the ceremony?" "No." "All right." She said it with relief, and I hated that my permission had become another task people felt required to complete. When the call ended, Joan drank her champagne. "Do you want to go?" she asked. "No." You answered fast. "I've had practice." We left the restaurant at 1:30. Joan suggested a movie, but I could not sit in a dark room for 2 hours pretending not to check the time. We walked through a home furnishings store instead. I inspected lamps I did not need while Joan tried every chair as if auditioning for retirement. At 2:40, Claire's friend Melissa called. She was one of the 9 people Claire had named as her own. I knew Melissa well enough to recognize her voice, but not well enough to understand why she was calling me on Claire's wedding day. "Ruth, I'm sorry to bother you. Is Claire all right?" "Yes, she's fine. She looks beautiful." My body reacted before my mind did. My hand went cold around the phone. "Why are you calling?" She asked if anyone had heard from you. "When?" "A few minutes ago." "Did she ask you to call me?" "No. I thought maybe you were on your way and got delayed." "I'm not coming." "Oh." Melissa did not know what else to say. I could hear women speaking behind her, a zipper being pulled, someone asking where the pins were. "Please tell her I love her," I said. "I will. Only that." "All right." I ended the call. Joan was standing beside a floor lamp shaped like a brass tree. "She asked about you," she said. I nodded. "Do you want to call her?" No. Why not? Because she's getting dressed. Because if I hear her voice, I might go. Because if I go now, everyone will call it a happy ending and no one will have to remember how we got there. That last one sounds a little like pride. It is. Joan came closer. Pride isn't always useless, she said. Sometimes it's the last railing on the stairs. At 3:30, we returned to my house. I made tea and forgot to put tea bags in the pot. Joan poured hot water into our cups without comment. At 3:55, I turned my phone face down. At 4, the grandfather clock in my living room struck. Alan had bought it at an estate sale and spent 3 weekends repairing the chime. It was always 2 minutes slow, but neither of us had ever corrected it. I imagined Claire standing at the entrance to the ballroom in the dress I had pinned around her. I imagined the jeweled belt half an inch higher. I imagined Grant waiting in a dark suit, his beard restored to order, looking certain enough for both of them. Then I stopped myself. Imagination was dangerous. It could turn punishment into tragedy or cruelty into misunderstanding, depending on what I needed. At 4:12, my phone vibrated once. At 4:20, twice. At 4:31, it began buzzing repeatedly. Joan picked it up. "Don't read them. I'm turning it off." The screen lit her face. She hesitated. "What?" Beverly sent something. I said not to read it. She wrote, "It has begun. Your daughter is beautiful. I am sorry." I held out my hand. Joan gave me the phone. I read the message myself, then powered it down. For the next 2 hours, we watched an old comedy Alan had loved. I could not have explained the plot afterward. Joan laughed too loudly at jokes that were not funny and got up 3 times to make popcorn. At 7, she asked if I wanted dinner. No. At 8? No. At 9? Possibly. She ordered Chinese food at 7:15. While we waited, I went upstairs and found the navy dress still spread across the bed. I hung it back in the closet. The pearl buttons clicked softly against the wooden hanger. I sat on the edge of the mattress. For weeks, I had pictured staying home as a position, a boundary, something clean and upright. It did not feel upright. It felt like missing my daughter's wedding. Joan appeared in the doorway but did not enter. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Yes." "Would you regret going?" "Yes, that's inconvenient." I laughed, then covered my face. She sat beside me and put one arm around my shoulders. I cried without grace. My nose ran, my ribs hurt. Joan handed me a tissue, then another, then the entire box. "I almost went," I said. "When?" "Every 10 minutes. Why didn't you?" Because every time I pictured walking in, I pictured Claire looking relieved that the questions would stop. Maybe she would have been relieved to see you. Maybe. You'll never know. No, that was the cost. Not simply that I missed it, but that I would never know which version might have happened. We ate noodles from cartons at the kitchen table. At 10, Joan turned my phone on without permission. "If Claire called, you'll want to know." There were 32 notifications. Most came from a group message Peter had accidentally started by sending a photograph to several relatives at once. People had replied with congratulations, hearts, and pictures of their own. I scrolled past quickly, but not quickly enough. The ballroom was warm with candles. The tables were not empty, though several had unused settings. Linda stood near the back in a green dress. Peter's tie was crooked. Susan was speaking to Beverly, who looked composed and tired. Then I saw Claire. She and Grant were standing beneath an arch of white flowers. Her face was turned toward him, laughing. The jeweled belt sat exactly where I had told her to move it. Behind them were people from the Green Book, Alan's former colleagues, my cousins, neighbors who had brought casseroles after his funeral, faces connected to Claire through birthdays, Sunday dinners, graduations, and years of my handwriting. I could name every cluster. At table 6, between Beverly and an empty chair, my place card was still standing. Joan took the phone from me. "I'm sorry. It's all right." "No, it isn't." The messages showed no disaster, no ruined ceremony, no collapse caused by my absence. Claire looked loved. Grant looked triumphant and tender, which complicated my anger in ways I did not appreciate. There was no message from Claire. At midnight, Joan fell asleep on the couch. I covered her with a blanket and returned to the kitchen. The invitation remained beside the fruit bowl. I picked it up, carried it to the hall, and placed it in the open drawer where the address book should have been. Then I closed the drawer. The house became very quiet. Somewhere across town, my daughter was dancing at her wedding with nearly everyone I knew. I turned off the lights and went upstairs alone. In the morning, Joan was asleep with one foot on the floor and the television asking whether we suffered from chronic joint pain. I turned it off. She opened one eye. I was watching that. You were snoring. I can multitask. I made coffee. She followed me into the kitchen, wrapped in the blanket, her hair pointing in several directions. Any message from Claire? No. Grant? No. Good. It doesn't feel good. I meant good that he didn't send some polished sentence about beginning their journey. At 8:30, Linda called. I know you said not to report, she began. Then don't. I'm not. I'm checking on you. I'm fine. No one who says that before 9 is fine. Joan held out her hand for the phone. I turned away. Linda continued. Peter feels terrible about the pictures. Peter usually feels terrible 10 minutes after Susan tells him to. He didn't mean to include you. I know. There was a pause. Claire asked about you, Linda said. Melissa told me. No, later, at the reception. I closed my eyes. What did she ask? Whether I'd spoken to you. And what did you say? That I'd seen you Thursday and you loved her. That was true, though it sounded like the kind of truth delivered beside a hospital bed. Did she say anything else? No. I waited, certain Linda was withholding something. Finally, she said, People asked where you were. I assumed they would. Grant told them it was private. That word is doing a lot of work. Beverly did not repeat his explanation. What did she say? That you had been invited late and chose not to attend. Accurate enough to be painful. Thank you for telling me, I said. I'm sorry I went. No, you're not. She took a breath. I'm sorry it hurt you that I went. That I believe. After we hung up, Joan poured coffee into Alan's old mug, the one that said world's okayest golfer. You gonna tell me what she said? She asked. No. Healthy boundaries are incredibly boring. At noon, my phone finally lit with Claire's name. It was not a call. We're married. I love you. I read it twice. I love you too, I wrote. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, and did not return. That was our entire conversation for 11 days. The first person to contact me about a wedding gift was Linda Carver's former supervisor, a man named Paul Avery, whom Alan had played cards with years earlier. Paul had ordered something from the registry, but the store had sent him a notice saying the item was unavailable. Do you know what else they'd like? He asked. No. Could you find out? You should ask Claire or Grant. I don't have Claire's number. The invitation has their website. I don't do websites. Then send a check. How much? Paul. I'm asking what's appropriate. I am not managing their gifts. He went quiet. I didn't mean anything by it, he said. I know, I'm sorry. Ask whatever you like, but ask them. 2 days later, a floral centerpiece arrived at my house with a card congratulating Claire and Grant. The sender, Celia Nash, had copied my address instead of theirs from an old holiday card. I called her. I'm sorry, she said. I thought they were staying with you after the wedding. No, they have an apartment. Grant said they were moving. They are. Eventually. Celia hesitated. Were you ill that day? No, I looked for you. I wasn't there. Someone said you decided weddings were too difficult after Alan. That wasn't true. Oh. The small sound held embarrassment, sympathy, and the beginning of suspicion. I thought you helped with the invitations, she said. The note sounded like you. I know. I traveled because I thought it mattered to you. I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize. But I did. Grant had borrowed my credibility and the debt came to my door. I drove the centerpiece to Claire's apartment. No one answered. I left it with the building manager and texted her where it was. She replied 4 hours later. Thanks. I added. Grant still has my address book. We're doing thank you notes. You have the addresses elsewhere. Not all of Alan's notes. My chest tightened. Those notes aren't for your wedding. They're family information. They're mine. She did not answer. I called Grant the next morning. I want the book returned by Friday. We're not finished with it. You told me after the wedding. I said we needed it for thank you notes. You also said soon, Sunday, and after the wedding. I can copy what we need and bring it over. Do that. It may take a couple weeks. You copied 90 addresses quickly enough. He sighed. We are sorting gifts, returns, hotel charges, vendor balances, and work. The book is safe. That isn't the issue. Then what is? You keep deciding when I'm allowed to have something that belongs to me. Claire is using it too. Claire knows where I live. He lowered his voice. She does not want to see you right now. I didn't ask her to deliver it. I'll handle it. By Friday. Ruth, I'm not promising Friday. I hung up because the alternative was saying something that would allow him to become the injured person again. Friday passed, then another. The calls slowed, though the awkwardness did not. At the pharmacy, a woman from Alan's old office hugged me and said she wished I could have found peace with the wedding. At the bank, a cousin by marriage asked whether Claire and I had reconciled yet, though neither of us had told her we were fighting. Every conversation seemed to contain a version of me I had not written. The first Thursday dinner in November, I invited no one. Marianne arrived anyway with soup. Evelyn brought her new coffee maker for an unveiling. Linda came without food and looked guilty about it until Joan told her guilt was not a side dish. We sat around my table, but something had changed. People waited before mentioning Claire. They edited themselves. When Linda said she had received a thank you card, Marianne looked at me, then away. What did it say? I asked. Thank you for the serving bowl. Was it handwritten? Grant signed both names. Then Claire hasn't injured her wrist. Linda laughed with relief. I hated that too, everyone needing permission to be ordinary around me. After dinner, I told them I was not hosting Thanksgiving. Joan stopped stacking plates. You always host Thanksgiving. I know. Where are you going? Nowhere, Marianne said. You can come to my house. That's not why. Then why? Because every year I called 18 people. Confirmed dietary restrictions, rearranged chairs, reminded Claire to contact Peter, asked Linda whether she needed a ride, and sent Joan home with leftovers she claimed not to want, because I could already imagine Grant arriving with wine and acting as if the ballroom had been weather. Because I did not want to stand over a turkey wondering whether my daughter had brought back my address book. I don't want to manage it this year, I said. Joan put down the plates. Good. You don't mean that. I do. I've been asking to bring mashed potatoes for 12 years. You put cream cheese in them. People like flavor, Ruth. The family reacted less gently. Peter called to ask whether Thanksgiving had been canceled because of the situation. Diane wanted to know if someone else should host. 2 people asked whether Claire was invited. 1 asked whether Grant was. I'm not making a guest list, I told each of them. I'm not hosting. Claire heard about it from Peter. So now Thanksgiving is canceled, she texted. It's not a federal service. Anyone can cook. You know what I mean? I'm taking the year off. Because of me. Because I don't want to host. Same thing. I set down the phone. A few minutes later, another message arrived. Grant's parents invited us, so don't worry. We won't be alone. I had not said I was worried. I had been worried. I'm glad you have somewhere to go, I wrote. Her answer came quickly. I knew you'd say that. I called her. She rejected the call, then called back after 20 minutes. What? She asked. I don't know what answer you wanted. An honest one. I'm glad you have somewhere to go. You're also hurt. Yes. Then say that. I'm hurt. She was quiet. I'm hurt too, she said. I know. No, you assume you know. You think I'm hurt because people declined or because the wedding wasn't perfect. Was it? It was beautiful. I'm glad. Stop saying you're glad. What would you like me to say? I don't know. We breathed at each other across town. Finally, I asked, "Are you happy?" "Yes." The answer came fast. "Good. Do you believe me?" "I'm trying to." Her voice hardened. "There, that. You asked. I should have known better." "Claire, I want my book back." She laughed once without humor. "Of course you do. What does that mean?" "It means we're trying to talk about us and you bring up the book. The book is part of us." "No, it's an object you can point to so you don't have to admit you're punishing me. I missed your wedding. You chose to. After you chose for me first." Neither of us spoke. Then Claire said, "I can't do Thanksgiving with you. I didn't ask you to. I know." She hung up. Thanksgiving arrived with cold rain. Joan came at noon carrying mashed potatoes in a casserole dish and a triumphant expression. Marianne brought a roast chicken because none of us wanted turkey. Evelyn brought pie. Linda spent the holiday with her sister but called before dinner. 4 women sat at my table instead of 18 people moving through my house. It was quieter, cheaper, and easier. It also hurt. At some point, Joan raised her glass to not managing anyone. "I'm managing the gravy," I said. "You're doing excellent work." We ate. We laughed. No one asked me to mediate an argument, find a missing serving spoon, or explain where Claire was. After dessert, I checked my phone. Claire had sent a photograph of herself and Grant at Beverly's table. They were smiling. Grant's parents stood behind them. The table was crowded with food. "Happy Thanksgiving," she had written. I typed the same words back. Then I noticed the edge of something green beneath a stack of envelopes on the sideboard behind Claire. My address book, still in their apartment, still open, still being used. I put the phone face down and returned to my smaller table. The next morning, I bought a new address book. It was blue vinyl, not green cloth, with clean white pages and gold letters down the side. The store had 3 choices: flowers, puppies, or plain. I chose plain because I was in no mood to assign puppies to alphabetical order. At home, I wrote Joan's name first. She watched from across the kitchen while eating leftover pie. "Why am I under J?" "Because your name is Joan. I assumed I'd be under S for sister. You'll be under D for difficult if you keep talking." She leaned over the table. "Your handwriting looks angry. My handwriting looks the same as always. The zip code is furious. I added Marianne, Evelyn, and Linda. Then I stopped. I could remember phone numbers. Addresses were harder. Street names had changed. Apartments had been traded for smaller apartments, and several people had moved after Alan died. I had trusted the green book to hold what my mind no longer needed to. So I called people. Not to discuss the wedding. Not to explain myself. I asked for their current addresses because I was rebuilding my list. Most answered without hesitation. A few asked what happened to the old book. I said it had been borrowed longer than expected. Celia Nash paused when I asked. "Are you still speaking to Claire?" she said. "Sometimes. I hope I didn't make things worse." "You didn't. I should have called before the wedding. You had no reason to. I thought we were closer than that." The sentence could have meant her and me, or her and Claire, or the version of all 3 that Grant had printed on a card. "Would you have come if you'd known I wasn't involved?" I asked. "I don't know. That's fair." I was embarrassed afterward. So was I. We agreed to have coffee the following week. It was uncomfortable, but it belonged to us. By the first week of December, I had filled 11 pages. Some entries were written in pencil because I no longer trusted permanence. Others had no notes at all. I resisted the urge to recreate every margin Alan and I had built over 40 years. The new book was not history. It was current information. Claire called on a Tuesday evening while I was addressing Christmas cards. "Do you have a minute?" "I have several." She did not laugh. "We're behind on thank you notes." I waited. "Way behind," she added. "How far?" 47. That's specific. Grant made a spreadsheet. Of course he did. He says a few people sent gifts without cards and some cards got separated from the boxes. "How can I help?" The question came from habit. I regretted it immediately. Claire's relief was audible. If I read you some names, can you tell me what they gave? No. Silence. You said you could help. I asked how. Well, that's how. I wasn't at the wedding. I didn't see the gifts. But people may have told you. They haven't. What about Mrs. Hanley? She declined. I know. She sent a check anyway. I don't know how much. Could you ask? No. Claire breathed out slowly. Mom, we're trying to thank people properly. Then call Evelyn and ask whether her gift arrived safely. Don't ask me to investigate the amount. That would be awkward. Yes, you're enjoying this. No, I'm declining to solve it. You always say you want me to handle things myself, but when I ask how, you make me feel stupid. I told you how. Call an elderly woman and ask how much money she sent. Evelyn is 72, not a glass ornament. Tell her you separated a few cards and want to make sure you acknowledge her gift correctly. Claire was quiet. Would you have done that? She asked. Yes. No, you would have known already. She was right. I had always kept a notebook at family events. Who brought what? Which dish belonged to whom? Who had traveled far enough to need leftovers for the road? No one asked me to. I simply did it, then acted surprised when people expected it. I would have known, I said, and that may be part of the problem. What does that mean? It means you're used to me having the answer. You like having the answer. I do. Then why are you punishing me for asking? Because the answer is not mine to collect this time. She said something away from the phone. Grant answered from another room. Is he there? I asked. He's making dinner. Good. He says the list was your network, so you'd know. There it was again. My network when work was required. Claire's family when seats needed filling. I'm not calling anyone about gifts. Fine. I can help you write a general note if you're unsure what to say. We know what to say. Then write it. She ended the call. The next afternoon, a brown shopping bag appeared on my porch. Inside were 12 boxed thank you cards, a roll of stamps, and a yellow sticky note in Claire's handwriting. For all the people who are really yours. No list, no names, just the accusation. I carried the bag inside and set it on the kitchen table. For an hour, I considered driving it back to her apartment. Instead, I called. She did not answer. I left a message. I'm not writing these. I'm also not throwing them away. You can pick them up whenever you're ready. The bag stayed on the table for 4 days. On Sunday, Grant arrived. He looked tired. His coat was buttoned wrong by one hole, which I would not have noticed on most people. He picked up the bag. Thanks for keeping these. Where's my book? At the apartment. You said you'd bring it after the wedding. I know. It has been 7 weeks. Claire isn't ready. Ready for what? To return it. I looked at him. You're letting her keep my property because she's angry? She feels like the book has become a symbol. It became a symbol because you wouldn't return it. That's not the whole reason. What's the whole reason? Grant shifted the bag from one hand to the other. She thinks if she gives it back, she's admitting the people in it were never hers. The answer was so sad and so wrong that some of my anger gave way. They can care about her without belonging to her, I said. I know. Do you? He looked toward the hall drawer. I didn't set out to hurt you. We have discussed your intentions. I'm trying to apologize. No, you're trying to describe yourself as someone who shouldn't need to. His face tightened. Fine. I'm sorry I used your name on the invitation. I'm sorry I told people you supported the wedding when I hadn't asked. I'm sorry I assumed you'd eventually come. It was the cleanest apology he had given me. Thank you. He waited, perhaps expecting the room to change. It didn't. Does that help? He asked. Yes. Does it fix anything? No. He nodded as though I had confirmed something unpleasant but expected. Claire thinks you hate me. I don't. She thinks you want us to fail. I don't. Do you think we will? I think marriage is hard enough without asking your mother-in-law to predict it. That almost made him smile. At the door he said, We're going to my parents for Christmas. I assumed Claire may not call. I know, she's hurt. So am I. He looked down at the bag of thank you cards. She thought the wedding would prove she had people, he said. Now every name feels like an argument. That isn't something I can fix for her. I know. This time, I believed him. I mailed Claire and Grant a Christmas card with both their names written inside. No lecture, no reference to the wedding. I included an invitation to dinner on December 23rd. Not the open house I had hosted every year. No revolving front door, no trays of food, no list of people needing rides. Just dinner at 6. The two of them, Joan and me. Claire declined by text. We already have plans with Grant's family. I wrote, all right. The invitation stands if things change. They did not. Joan arrived on the 23rd with mashed potatoes. This isn't Thanksgiving, I told her. I'm perfecting the recipe. There's still cream cheese. Perfection takes courage. Marianne joined us at 6:30 because a gathering of two sisters looked too much like evidence. We ate roast beef, exchanged small gifts, and argued about whether a movie set at Christmas counted as a Christmas movie. At 8, someone knocked. For one disloyal second, I thought it was Claire. It was Celia Nash, holding a tin of cookies. I was in the neighborhood, she said, though she lived 20 minutes away. I invited her in. The evening became larger by one person, honestly. Christmas morning, Claire sent a picture of the card I had mailed propped on Beverly's mantel. Merry Christmas, she wrote. Merry Christmas. I love you. Love you too. That was enough to keep hope alive and not enough to feed it. January arrived, then February. The new address book gained names, corrections, and one note in Joan's entry. Do not lend casserole dishes. I stopped reminding Claire about birthdays. When Peters came and went, she called me 3 days later. Why didn't you tell me? You know his birthday. I thought it was next week. Then write it down. In what? I said nothing. She caught herself. Sorry. Put it in your phone. I will. Call him. He'll be happy to hear from you. Is he mad? Ask him. You know, yes. But you won't tell me. I'm not the switchboard. Claire was quiet. I hate when you use my words against me. They were good words. I was angry. You were still right. She called Peter herself. He later told me she apologized without blaming me, which I considered progress I had no right to claim. Beverly and I spoke occasionally. She never reported on the marriage, and I never asked. Once, while discussing an almond cake recipe, she said, "They're learning that a wedding is not the same as being married." That sounds expensive, I replied, in several currencies. She changed the subject. The call from Claire came on a rainy evening in March. Her voice sounded different, not softer, unarmored. Are you home? She asked. Yes. Is Joan there? No. Anyone else? No. She took a breath. Can I come over? I looked at the blue address book beside my phone. What is this about? I have something that belongs to you. Neither of us said the word. All right, I said. I'm bringing it myself. The line went quiet, but she did not hang up. Claire, I'm still here. So am I. She ended the call. 20 minutes later, headlights moved across my living room wall. Claire's car stopped at the curb. She sat behind the wheel for a long time before getting out. When she finally walked up the path, the green address book was pressed against her chest. I opened the door before she knocked. Rain shone on Claire's hair and the shoulders of her coat. She held the book with both hands, its faded green cover facing outward. You're getting wet, I said. I know. Come in. She stepped past me but did not remove her coat. For a moment, we stood in the hallway like two women meeting to exchange something purchased online. Then she held it out. I'm sorry, I kept it. I took the book. It felt heavier than I remembered, though that was impossible. The tape along the spine had begun to peel. Colored tabs protruded from the pages, yellow, blue, and pink, dozens of them. What are these? Claire looked toward the living room. Can we sit down? I carried the book to the kitchen table. The blue address book lay beside the phone. Claire noticed it immediately. You replaced it. I needed addresses. With that? It functions. She touched the blue cover with one finger, then drew her hand back. I set the green book in front of me. Tea? No. I filled the kettle anyway. Claire removed her coat and hung it on the chair instead of the hook by the door. She sat where Grant had placed his response list months earlier. I opened the book. Marianne's entry had a yellow tab. Beneath Alan's note about her old apartment, someone had written in pencil, "Likely yes, close to Yar." Joan's page had a blue tab and the words "uncertain if Ruth not attending." Peter and Susan were yellow. Linda was yellow with a check mark. Evelyn Hanley had been marked pink. I turned another page. Celia Nash, travels, likely gift. Paul Avery, probably sends even if no. My cousin Diane, ask after hotel deadline. There were circles, initials, small dollar signs beside a few names, and lines connecting couples who no longer lived together. Grant had corrected some addresses and made others worse. I closed the book. Did you know he did this? Not at first. When did you know? Before the wedding. I looked at her. I saw the tabs, she said. I didn't read all the notes until later. You kept using it. Yes. The kettle clicked off. I poured water over 2 tea bags. Claire did not object when I placed a cup in front of her. Grant said it was just planning, she continued. He said yellow meant likely, blue meant we needed to follow up, and pink meant they'd probably send something even if they couldn't come. Some of those pink people thought I was hosting. I know. How? Because I called them about thank you notes. I sat across from her. What did they say? Enough. She pulled the string of the tea bag around the spoon, tightening it until the paper tag tore off. Mrs. Hanley asked if you liked the espresso machine, Claire said. I've never seen the espresso machine. I told her that. What did she say? She said she hoped I enjoyed it. That sounds like Evelyn. She also said she sent the check because she thought Dad would have wanted her to. Claire stared into her tea. Everyone talked about you, she said, even the people who went, especially the people who went. They asked where you were, whether you were sick, whether we were fighting. At the reception, I kept telling myself they were there for me. Then every conversation started with your name. They knew you. They knew me through you. That doesn't mean they didn't care. I know that now. The rain tapped against the kitchen window. Somewhere in the house, a pipe knocked twice. Did Grant tell you to return the book? I asked. No. Does he know you have? Yes. How did that conversation go? Badly. I waited. Claire wrapped both hands around the cup. We've been fighting since the wedding. Not constantly. We're not throwing dishes. I didn't ask. You were thinking it. I was wondering whether you're safe. I'm safe. Good. He thinks I blamed him for something I wanted. Did you? Yes. The answer came without protection. I told him the guest list was his idea. He reminded me I handed him the book. I told him he chose the names. He showed me the messages where I approved them. I called the tabs disgusting. He asked why I didn't object when they helped fill the tables. She looked at me. He was right about that part, about more than that. I said nothing. Claire pushed her tea away. I wanted the room, she said. I wanted his family to walk in and see that I had people. I wanted Beverly to see I came from something too. She never suggested you didn't. She didn't have to. They talk about cousins like everyone has 40 of them. They have weddings, anniversaries, reunions, retirement parties. People show up. They bring flowers and make speeches and already know where to sit. So, do our people? No. Your people do. I looked at the green book. Claire continued. I spent years acting like all of that happened on its own. Thanksgiving just existed. Christmas cards arrived. Dad's friends remembered my birthday. Aunt Joan knew when I changed jobs. I thought it meant I belonged to this huge connected family. You did belong, because you kept connecting it. Yes. She nodded, as if the agreement hurt. When Grant asked who I wanted at the wedding, I wrote down names. Then I realized I didn't have their numbers. Some of them wouldn't have recognized my number anyway. I couldn't ask you without letting you into the planning, and I was still angry about the money and the dinner and everything after Dad died. So you lied about moving announcements. Yes. And let him use my name? Yes. You knew I wasn't invited? Yes. Each answer was quiet and complete. Why? I asked. Claire's face tightened. I told you. I didn't want to watch your face. That isn't all of it. She looked toward the dark window. I wanted your life without your opinion. The sentence settled between us. Then she began to cry, not dramatically. No shaking shoulders. Tears simply rolled down her face while she sat upright, refusing to wipe them. I wanted the room to prove I was loved, she said, and I didn't want you there, because you were the one person who could look around and know I'd borrowed it. I reached across the table, then stopped. Claire noticed. You can touch me, she said. I don't know if you want me to. I don't either. I left my hand where it was, palm against the wood. The worst part, she said, was after the ceremony. People kept coming up to me and telling stories about you and Dad. They thought it would make me happy. Every group and every picture connected back to you somehow. I saw the pictures. I know. Uncle Peter nearly died when Susan realized you were included. He survived. Barely. A small smile moved through her tears. She pulled a tissue from her purse. I wrote your place card, she said. You did? At the coffee shop, the stack I had with me. I remembered the green ink, her hands moving the rubber band on and off. Grant wanted to remove it after you declined. I said, leave it. Why? I thought you might come. You knew I said I wouldn't. I kept looking at the door anyway. I swallowed. An empty chair is not the same as wanting me there from the beginning. I know. And keeping it empty doesn't repair what happened. I know. The way she said it made me believe her. I am sorry, she said. Not that it became a mess. Not that people found out. I'm sorry I excluded you. I'm sorry I let Grant tell people you chose it. I'm sorry I used your book. I'm sorry I took the dress you fixed and walked into that room knowing you were home. I looked down at the table. There are apologies you dream about receiving. In the dream, they release something. The other person names the wound. You recognize justice, and all the pain leaves through an invisible door. In real life, the pain stayed seated. I missed your wedding, I said. Claire covered her mouth. I know. No, I need to say this. I chose not to go at the end. That was my choice, but you made the first choice. I will always have missed it. I know. I regret staying home. She looked up. I don't regret refusing the invitation you gave me. Both are true. Claire nodded. I was furious at you all day, she said. Then I was furious because part of me knew you were right. I thought if you came, I'd forgive you for making me ask. When you didn't, I decided you had proved you didn't love me enough. I loved you before there was a wedding. I know that now, too. I took a sip of tea. It had gone bitter from steeping too long. Does Grant know what you're telling me? He knows I'm apologizing. Does he agree? He agrees with some of it. That sounds honest. He apologized to you. He did. Claire looked surprised. He didn't tell me. It wasn't perfect. Nothing is good enough for you. The words came automatically. We both froze. Then she closed her eyes. I'm sorry. That is the part we have to change. What part? The part where I tell you something difficult and you turn it into evidence that I can never be satisfied. And the part where I ask questions until you feel like there's only one safe answer. Claire nodded slowly. I don't know if my marriage is okay, she said. I kept my face still. I love him, she added quickly. All right. He can be generous. He can also make everything look solved before it is. And I let him because I like how solved it looks. What are you going to do? I don't know. I won't tell you. I thought you'd say I told you so. I never told you not to marry him. You almost did. I asked questions. She gave me a tired look. Right. I accepted the correction. I worried, I said. That isn't the same as wanting you to fail. I don't want that. What if we do fail? Then it will be yours to understand, not mine to predict. She folded the wet tissue into smaller squares. I told him we can't keep saying this was a misunderstanding, she said. It wasn't. No. He says there's no point reopening it with everyone. There is, if you told them something false. Do you want me to send an email? No. What do you want? For you to correct the people you personally misled. Beverly, Peter and Susan, Diane, Celia, anyone you told I declined from the beginning or couldn't attend because of Alan. That's humiliating. Yes. She stared at me. I did not soften it. Do I have to do that before you forgive me? I don't know when I'll forgive you. This isn't a price. Then why? Because they deserve the truth, too. Claire looked at the green book. Grant will think I'm turning people against him. Don't blame him. Tell them what you did. She flinched. You did it together, I said. You can only take responsibility for your part. The rain had softened to a whisper. After a while, Claire asked, Who do I call first? That's not for me to manage. She almost smiled. I walked into that. You did. She stood and put on her coat. I carried the green book to the hall. The drawer still held the late invitation. I placed the book beside it, then saw the colored tabs pressing against the wood. I took it back out. What are you doing? Claire asked. I don't want it in there yet. She nodded. At the door, she turned toward me. Can I call you after I talk to them? You can call me any time. That was always true, wasn't it? Yes. She looked as though that hurt too. I opened the door. The rain had stopped, leaving the path dark and shining. Claire stepped outside, then faced me again. I don't expect things to go back. They can't. Can they go somewhere else? I held the green book against my side. Maybe, I said, but you'll have to walk there yourself. She nodded and went down the path. I watched until her car disappeared. Then I returned to the kitchen, opened the green book to Marianne's page, and peeled away the yellow tab. The pencil marks remained underneath. I removed every tab before I went to bed. They came away with small tearing sounds, yellow, blue, pink. Likely, uncertain, gift. By the time I finished, a pile of colored paper lay beside the book like unpleasant confetti. The pencil was harder. I erased Grant's notes carefully, trying not to disturb Alan's handwriting underneath. On some pages, the graphite lifted cleanly. On others, his calculations had been pressed so firmly into the paper that the words remained visible after the gray disappeared. Likely yes. Close to Ruth. Probably sends even if no. I stopped before midnight. Erasing was becoming another form of damage. The next afternoon, Beverly called. Claire spoke to me, she said. I know, she took responsibility. I'm glad. She did not blame Grant. That matters. She also didn't protect him. That matters too. Beverly was quiet for a moment. I told her I had helped teach him to count affection by the chair, she said. You didn't owe her that. No, I owed him. Did you tell him? Yes. How did that go? Richard took a walk. I laughed before I could stop myself. I'm not asking for details, I said. Good, I'm not providing them. 2 days later, Peter called. Claire says she never told you about the larger wedding, he said. That's true. She says Grant shouldn't have told us you were too upset about Alan. That's also true. She apologized. I know. Peter cleared his throat. Susan says I should apologize too. For what? For not calling you when the invitation came. You did call. After Marianne, you didn't know. I knew something sounded wrong. Peter, I don't need every person in the family apologizing. Susan says that isn't the point. Susan is becoming very powerful. She's always been powerful. I'm only noticing because she's retired. He asked whether I wanted to have dinner the next time they were in town. I said yes. Celia called after Claire spoke with her. Diane sent a short message. Evelyn did not contact me at all, which was her way of respecting the difference between truth and theater. Claire called 7 people the first week, 4 the second. She did not report every conversation, and I did not ask. Once she said a former neighbor had been cold to her. I wanted to defend myself, she admitted. Did you? At first. What did you say? That Grant wrote the note. I waited. Then I called her back, Claire said. I told her I knew what it said before the wedding and didn't correct it. How did she respond? She said thank you for being honest. That's all? That was enough. Some people forgave quickly. Others became distant. No one organized a public condemnation. There were no dramatic announcements, only changed tones, unanswered invitations, and a few relationships Claire discovered had never belonged to her in the way she imagined. That was consequence enough. Grant came to my house alone in April. He carried no folder. I'm not here to ask you to do anything, he said. That's a strong opening. I thought so. I let him into the kitchen. He declined coffee, then accepted it. Apparently, Beverly and I had the same effect on people. He sat where he had once spread the response lists. Claire told me what you asked her to do. I asked her to correct her part. I know. I didn't ask her to blame you. I know that too. He looked older than he had at the wedding, though I had only seen photographs. Not ruined, not defeated, just less arranged. The tabs were mine, he said. Yes. The gift notes too. Yes. I told myself they were practical. You've mentioned your intentions. I'm not explaining my intention. He took a breath. I'm saying I understand what I turned those people into. I waited. Not completely, he added. But more than I did, that's probably honest. I called the people I personally misled. All of them? The ones I could identify. You had a list. He winced. Right. I almost apologized, then didn't. Grant looked toward the blue book beside the phone. Claire says you're using a new one. Yes. What will you do with the old one? I haven't decided. He nodded. We're trying to stay married, he said. I kept my expression still. Claire told me you were uncertain. She told you that. She said she loved you and didn't know if the marriage was okay. That sounds like her. She thinks I care more about how things look than how they feel. Do you? Sometimes. The answer cost him. I think she cares about that too, I said. She does. You can't use her agreement to reduce your responsibility. I know. And she can't use your enthusiasm to reduce hers. I know, we sat with that. I'm not going to tell you whether to stay together, I said. I didn't come for that. Good. I came because I apologized before, but I was still trying to get you to make the problem go away. Yes, this time I'm not. Then thank you. He finished his coffee. At the door, he turned. Do you think you'll ever like me again? The question was so unexpectedly young that I answered gently. Sometimes I already do. He smiled, though it did not rescue him. That may have to be enough, I said. For now. Claire and I began having breakfast on the first Sunday of each month. The first one lasted 40 minutes. We spoke about the weather, Joan's ongoing campaign to improve mashed potatoes, and whether Evelyn's new coffee maker was actually better than the old one. The second lasted an hour. At the third, Claire told me she and Grant had postponed moving. Do you want my opinion? I asked. She looked suspicious. Do you have one? Several. Can you hold them? I can try. She told me they wanted to reduce expenses and learn to live in the apartment they already had instead of treating the next address as a solution. I drank my coffee without asking about deposits, square footage, or the lamp that had always been too large. When she finished, she said, You can ask one question. Are you comfortable there? Mostly. Then I'm done. You're sweating. It's difficult work. She laughed. At another breakfast, Claire asked why I had stopped the large Thursday dinners. I didn't stop them, I said. They got smaller. Because of me? Partly. Her face fell. Not as punishment. Some people thought I was involved in the wedding invitations. Others felt they had to choose between us. I got tired of every meal becoming a loyalty test. I'm sorry, I know. Will you host the open house again? Maybe. Maybe not. She nodded. I had learned that I could love gathering people and still dislike being the person responsible for everyone's belonging. Marianne hosted one Thursday. Joan hosted the next and served mashed potatoes with cream cheese to universal approval, which I considered a failure of standards. Linda and I found our way back to ease. Celia came to coffee twice. Peter remembered to call Claire directly instead of asking me whether she was all right. The blue book accumulated its own notes. Marianne: hates carnations, claims she doesn't. Joan: return dishes without lids. Evelyn: new coffee maker acceptable. I did not copy the green book. I kept it in the hall drawer beside the late invitation, but I no longer opened it every time I needed a number. Some histories should be preserved. That did not mean they had to keep doing the work. In June, Claire called on a Wednesday night. I want to have a birthday dinner, she said. For whom? For me. Most people celebrate their own birthdays, Mom. You used to treat yours like an administrative error. I'm trying something new. All right, 6 people. At our apartment. I waited for the rest. You, me, Grant, Joan, Beverly, and Richard. That is 6. I counted twice. No Melissa. I'm taking her to lunch. No coworkers. Drinks Friday. No retired accountants. Absolutely no retired accountants. I smiled. I'm calling everyone myself, she added. I called you first. Why? Because I want you there. The words arrived without ceremony. I'd like to come, I said. Dinner was on a Saturday. Claire's apartment had not grown any larger, and the lamp still overwhelmed one corner of the living room. A folding chair had been added to the table, but no one called it making room. Beverly brought flowers. Joan brought mashed potatoes, claiming birthdays had no rules. Richard brought wine. Grant cooked roast chicken and checked it so often that it nearly escaped through the oven door. There were no place cards. Claire wore jeans and a green blouse. She looked nervous when I arrived, then relieved in a way I could accept because she had wanted me before anyone asked why I was missing. The 6 of us did not pretend the wedding had never happened. We also did not discuss it over dinner. Beverly and Joan argued about cream cheese. Richard told a long story about a broken lawnmower. Grant burned the rolls and served them anyway. The cake was lemon with raspberry filling. Did you remember that? I asked Claire. You remembered it for me long enough. She cut 6 uneven pieces. Afterward, everyone moved toward the living room. I began stacking the plates out of habit. Claire picked up 2 and almost handed them to me. Then she stopped. For a second, we stood facing each other with the stack between us. You've done enough, she said. Her voice held no accusation. She took the plates to the kitchen herself. I sat back down at the table, leaving the crumbs where they were, and listened to my daughter laugh from the next room. No one needed me to make the evening happen. I had simply been invited to be there.